Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City Commission meeting this May 17th, 2022. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. We have a wonderful crowd here from our community, and several of our commissioners will soon be in attendance. A couple have health problems, and so they're not going to be able to attend tonight. But to begin, what I'd like you to do is to please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated, everybody. So for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. And the wonderful thing about our meetings is we have the opportunity to listen and present make presentations and present proclamations to individuals, organizations, or what else? Individuals, organizations, or events that take place here in Fort Lauderdale. And tonight we have several of those, and so that's how we're going to begin our meeting. And I know a number of you folks are here tonight for the very purpose of being part of these proclamations and these presentations. I want to thank you all for being here. You're welcome to stay through the meeting if you want to after your presentation is made, and see how democracy is in action here in Fort Lauderdale. So having said that, it is my honor to recognize the great Broward County property appraiser here, who is going to talk to us tonight about property appraising, Marty Chiara. Marty! Yes, please. Or Marty, you can take the microphone if you like. Oh, sure. And do it, talk show style. You're all dressed up. Look at how dapper you look.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate it. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good.
But I have to tell you, you have an unbelievable mayor and commission. Give them a round of applause. They deserve it. Without a doubt. I love Dean Trantillis and I love Steve Glassman, and I also love the fact that every single day, every week, constantly, they always take the time to call our office, to call me, to find out how property values are in Broward County. They really work so very hard for you. And with that said, Mr. Mayor, I was hoping to just say a few different things. Sure. I was invited today to talk about how property values are right now, which are pretty amazing in Broward County and in Fort Lauderdale. I wanted to quickly talk for the residents what we do in our office to be able to help y'all. And I also wanted to talk about a great program we have called Owner Alert that's really designed to protect you from property fraud. It's a great program that's really there to help you. There are a few main functions to our office. The first function is we determine the value of every piece of property in Broward County for tax purposes, whether it's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, or centrally assessed property, which are railroads. And the reason that's important is because when you pay your property taxes, the amount of taxes you pay is a relationship between the value of the property that we set and the tax rate set by Fort Lauderdale, the county commission, the school board, and all other taxing authorities. So the most important thing we want to do is make sure we get it right. And Broward County is a big place. More people live here than 13 states, the District of Columbia, and all U.S. territories except Puerto Rico. It is big. And there are more parcels that we appraise than many states. And even though the people in our office do a very good job, mistakes can occur, or maybe you have information that we don't have that could help us possibly bring down the assessed value of your property, which could bring down your property taxes. So next month, right about June 1st, please go on our website at bcpa.net, type in your name and your address, check out your property, and if you have any concerns, give me a call, email me, call me, so we can go through it together. And if we can adjust your value, we always will. Also in August, please be on the lookout for your trim notice. It's your truth and millage notice. It's not a tax bill. It's a document so you can make sure you don't overly pay in your property taxes. It'll show that information as well. If you have any concerns, contact me by September 19th so we can adjust it. The second thing that we do in our office, and this is what I love most about what we do, is we give tax-saving exemptions to people that qualify. And there are a lot of exemptions under Florida law that people qualify for. If you live in Fort Lauderdale, this is your primary residence, you get a homestead exemption. What it does is it takes $50,000 of value off the tax roll you no longer pay taxes on. It can save you $800, $900, maybe $1,000 a year. But most importantly, it caps the value you're taxed on every year thereafter to 3%. So what that means is even if your market value goes up 50, 60, 70, 100%, the value you're taxed on cannot go up more than a maximum of 3%. It is so very important right now because everybody here sees what properties are selling for in Fort Lauderdale. They're selling for a lot of money, so the homestead exemption really protects you. There are so many other exemptions as well. There are exemptions for seniors, for veterans, for persons with disabilities, and others. Please go on our website at bcpa.net, and if there's something you're not getting, contact me by September 19th of this year. We'll apply it so it'll be reflected in your tax bill. The second thing I wanted to quickly talk about for the mayor and the commission, and actually everybody here, is where property values are in Fort Lauderdale right now. And if anybody's upset by it, I brought my real property director right here, Bill Behringer. Get him, he's the guy.
Should we have a drum roll here?
Absolutely, but that is his fault. And I have to tell you, where property values are right now is pretty amazing. If you took all the property, residential and commercial, last year in 2021, you sold it on the open market, in Fort Lauderdale, you would get right about $56.4 billion. Fast forward 1 year to now, if you sold all the commercial and residential property in the open market, you would get about $64.9 billion. That's almost a 15% increase in value in just 1 year. The taxable value is the value that the mayor and the commission are going to be utilizing when they determine what they want their budget to be this year. So they're going to set their tax rate on this value. And if you took the taxable value in 2021, you would have got about $42 billion. This year, it's going to increase to approximately $47.4 billion. That's a 12.9% increase. So to give you an idea of what that really means, if you keep the millage rate the same at right about 4.1193, that'll bring in an additional $22,315,000 more this year than last year. And what's very important to note, though, if you're a homestead property owner, the value you're taxed on cannot go up more than 3%. So that really means that the major increase in that is being paid for by
all these nonprofits have just
yes, absolutely. You guys are good.
Oh boy,
it's true. It's
where do we get our hands on that?
It is. It's a big increase in revenue, but the vast majority is being paid for by people moving in from everywhere else, usually like New York, California. They're coming down here paying a lot of money for properties, and there's been a significant amount of new construction added to the tax roll. To give you an idea, this year, Fort Lauderdale alone added $1.6 billion of new construction to the tax roll over last year. That's really what's driving so much of this increase in value. Also, just to let you know, in 2021, there were 3,231 residential sales here in Fort Lauderdale. And so far this year, there's been almost 1,000, and that's going up every single day. There are 38,243 homestead exemptions here in the city of Fort Lauderdale. You have 2,033 low-income seniors who put a little bit more money in their pocket who qualify for that exemption. And I want to give the mayor and the commission a big shout on this because there are 573 long-term seniors that get an exemption. Let me just quickly explain why that is so very important. The long-term senior exemption is really designed to give seniors that have been here a long time that struggle to make ends meet a property tax break. But not every city has that exemption. There's only about 17 of our 31 cities that have adopted it. And fortunately, your mayor and your commission did the right thing for so many of the seniors here in Fort Lauderdale. And what they do is they basically get an additional homestead exemption on top of what they currently get. The seniors that qualify, if you're 65 years of age or over, you made under $32,561. And last year, if you've been in your home for 25 years or more, and we have the value of your home under $250,000, you get this additional exemption. And what I love about this, and what I really wanted to just talk about this one more time, is every exemption takes a little bit of money out of the tax roll that is collected by government. But not a whole lot of seniors qualify for this. So the hit to the budget for Fort Lauderdale is minimal. But the seniors that do qualify for this get to put a lot of money in their pocket and live a little better of a life. So I really appreciate you all adopting that, Mayor. Thank you so much. You also have 3,451 widows who get an exemption here in Fort Lauderdale. You have 289 American Hero totally permanently disabled veterans who actually get a full exemptions here in Fort Lauderdale. And there are 36,029 single-family homes in Fort Lauderdale with an average market value of $706,093 and an average taxable value of $470,095.
Those are single-family homes?
Single-family homes. But that's the average. The median's a little bit lower. The median market value is about $405,000 and the taxable is $241,000. In condominiums, the average market value is $465,000 with a taxable of $384,000, and the median is $316,000 with the taxable of $252,000. Just to let you know, the largest new construction project added to the tax roll this year was a development called Alluvion. And that added $175,270,000 to the tax roll, which is really great. And the last thing I wanted to quickly talk about, Mayor Trantellis, if it's okay, is just a program I think is so very important that's really designed to protect you from property fraud. You know, unfortunately, South Florida and Broward County in particular is the title fraud capital of the world. You have some really terrible people. I think they're criminals. What they do is they file fake deeds on people's property, and they take these deeds and they try to extort people for money or mortgage rent or even sell their property. It's a terrible thing what they do, and they do it over and over and over. And the reason it's so easy is because the recording divisions for every county in the state of Florida have a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever document is filed with them. And so you have these criminals that'll walk in there, file fake deeds with fake notarized signatures on people's properties, and they use that for nefarious reasons. And so I wanted to give the people of Broward County the opportunity to fight the fraud before the fraud occurred. And so we came up with a great program called Owner Alert. If you go to our website at web.bcpa.net/owner alert or just bcpa.net and click on Owner Alert, you can sign up. And the way you sign up is you type in your name and you type in your folio number, which you can easily grab from our website, and you type in your email address. And if we have your email address on file, you're automatically verified. If we don't have your email address on file, we ask that you upload your Florida driver's license or your Florida ID. If we don't have that, there are other ways to get verified as well. And then what will occur is if somebody files any document, whether it's legitimate or not changing ownership of your property, you're going to be notified instantaneously so you can know that something's happened there. And if it's fraudulent, you can fight the fraud before the fraud has time to make itself fraudulent. It's a really great program designed to protect your most important asset. We've had about 180,000 Broward County property owners sign up so far. And my goal is to get every Broward County property owner to sign up because it's there to protect your most important asset, your home. And the last thing I wanted to mention, which I'm just very proud of, is our office is right now taking a little step forward. And not only do we have our Owner Alert program, but it's also kind of I guess you say, a crusade of mine to try to put the people that are doing this in jail. And so lately, we've been really focusing and helping law enforcement develop criminal cases against people who are actually defrauding people out of their properties. Actually, yesterday, we had 2 people arrested that defrauded people out of millions of dollars worth of properties in Broward County. Thank you very much. And when I say millions of dollars, these aren't properties that are worth $1 million each. These are from some of the most vulnerable people in our community that they do on a large basis, and they defraud them out of these properties. And so my goal is to continue to do this so that we can make sure that all of these people know that they are not welcome in Broward County, and that if you try to defraud somebody here, we're going to work hard to put you in jail. With that said, I really appreciate y'all having me today. I would actually stick around for the meeting, but I have to help my older daughter with her social studies homework, which is very exciting to me because it's about the 3 branches of government, so I'm very giddy about this. She's not going to be happy about it, but I just want to thank you all so much for allowing me to be your Broward County property appraiser, and thank you so much, Dean and Steve, for allowing me to be here today. Thank you, Dean. Oh, thank you, Steve. Oh, you're awesome.
When are you sending us the check?
As soon as you'd like it. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Let's give it up for Marty. Thank you so much. It is now my honor and pleasure to present a proclamation declaring June 3rd as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Fort Lauderdale. And I'd like to invite Beth Weigard, Susan L. Shake, Linda Thompson-Gonzalez, Christina Rodriguez, and Lucy Rolls-Springer, and Moms Demand Action to please come forward and join me. It's always there? Oh. Okay. I like Marty's style, so I think I'll just join you up here. Hi, ladies. Let me stand in the middle if you don't mind. So thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Nice seeing you all again. Thank you. So I have a proclamation here tonight from the Office of the Mayor regarding and recognition of the National Gun Violence Awareness Day next month. Whereas each day, more than 110 Americans are killed by gun violence and 200 are wounded. On average, there are nearly 16,000 gun homicides annually. According to a survey of global homicide rates, Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide, people who live in other high-income countries. Firearms are the leading cause of death for American children and teens, and access to a gun increases the risk of death by suicide by 300%. Cities across the nation, including Fort Lauderdale, are working to end senseless violence with evidence-based solutions. Mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are the most familiar with local crime activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how they keep their citizens safe. Whereas the National Gun Violence Awareness Day was inspired by friends of Hadia Pendleton, a 15-year-old young lady who was tragically shot and killed in Chicago in 2013, shortly after marching in President Obama's second inaugural parade. Ms. Pendleton's friends chose to wear the color orange in her honor because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when in the woods, and orange symbolizes the value of human life. Whereas the National Gun Violence Awareness Day asks everyone who believes we can do more to reduce gun violence to come together to raise awareness and honor the lives of the victims and survivors of gun violence by wearing orange on June 3rd, 2022. Gun violence prevention is more important than ever as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to exacerbate gun violence after more than 2 years of increased gun sales, increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in metropolitan gun violence. Whereas the city of Fort Lauderdale remains committed to doing its part to reduce gun violence, keeping firearms out of the wrong hands, and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, we as city commissioners of the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, do hereby proclaim June 3rd, 2022 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and encourage all to support efforts to prevent the tragic events of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Signed by myself, Mayor Dean Trantalis. Congratulations, and thank you all for being here today. Thank you. And I think the events of this past weekend only highlight how difficult it is to try to deal with the effects of gun violence. Would someone like to say a few words?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth Wiegard, and I'm a volunteer for the Broward County chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I would like to thank Mayor Trantalis and the City Commission of Fort Lauderdale on behalf of Moms Demand Action for issuing this proclamation declaring June 3rd, 2022 National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Although, honestly, as the mayor mentioned, after the news from Buffalo and Milwaukee and Laguna Woods this weekend, if we all need a proclamation to become aware of gun violence, we are not paying attention. The first Friday in June has been declared National Gun Violence Awareness Day in honor of Hadia Pendleton, who was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15, and we commemorate her life and the lives of all the victims of gun violence by wearing orange on that day. Every year, Moms Demand Action also supports our local communities on this day. This year, our Broward County chapter is holding a food drive for the Pantry of Broward, Inc., which serves seniors living on low fixed incomes and grandparents raising their grandchildren. We will also use this opportunity to provide information about our Be Smart campaign, which makes gun owners aware of the dangers of having unsecured weapons in their homes, especially when there are children present. In 2021, there are at least 377 unintentional shootings by children, resulting in 154 deaths. 70% of unintentional shootings by children occur in the home. Also, 2/3 of firearm deaths in the US are suicides, 2/3. And suicide attempts using a firearm result in death 9 out of 10 times, much more than other attempts. Reducing easy access to firearms for people who are struggling will save lives as well. This is an important message for all gun owners, and we hope that Fort Lauderdale will make our Be Smart message a part of the city's campaign to rein in gun violence and protect our children and other vulnerable people in our community. And we will probably be following up via email about that. Thank you again for declaring June 3rd, 2022 National Gun Violence Day.
Thank you so
Lisa?
much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mayor Trantalis, for this proclamation, and Vice Mayor Glassman, and to all of the members of the commission. I'm Linda Thompson-Gonzalez, a proud member of our Broward County chapter for moms. As we know, the statistics we've just heard are absolutely staggering. Across the country, as children go about their daily lives going to school, as people go about their business, buying food for their families, or just going to enjoy a day at the beach, we are all under this unnecessary threat of absolutely mindless gun violence. There are actions, there are common sense actions that we can take to prevent this, and we must. So we all want to especially express our appreciation to you, Mayor Trantalis, to our Vice Mayor Glassman, and to all the members of the Commission for this Awareness Day. We must all stand up and work for some thoughtful, common sense gun safety laws to protect all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you everyone here tonight. Okay, now I would like to invite Commissioner Glassman regarding a proclamation and the Salvation Army Week in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Commissioner Glassman.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Mayor, it's good to see you, just you and me here, huh? Or as I like to say, the mayor and I are holding down the fort in Fort Lauderdale. How's that? Okay. Thank you. Kids should keep reading. He tells me just keep reading. Okay, thank you. I'd like to call Major Stephen Long, Major Connie Long, and Joshua Myers to join me, or in the well. We're going to get some photos there, but if you'd like to come here, and we'll say wherever you're comfortable. Thank you. Is Major Connie Long with us this evening? Okay, well, I hope she's okay. All right, good. I'm going to read this proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, City of Fort Lauderdale, in recognition of National Salvation Army Week, May 9th through 15th, 2022. Whereas National Salvation Army Week was declared by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1954 with the intention of informing the country of the comprehensive nature of the services the Salvation Army provides and remind Americans to give freely of themselves. And whereas, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, more than 40 million Americans live in poverty and millions more live near the poverty line. Approximately half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and 1/3 of adults between ages 18 and 64 live in low-income households. After 2 years of devastation due to the COVID pandemic, the need is greater than ever. And whereas, since 1926, the Salvation Army of Broward County has faithfully and consistently worked to help those in need from our community, 365 days a year, by providing assistance to individuals and families in crisis, shelter to those experiencing homelessness, food and meals to the hungry, and more. And whereas the Salvation Army of Broward County is dedicated to, quote, meeting human needs without discrimination, unquote, through several vital programs, including its Economic Stability Program, short-term shelter solutions, housing programs, seasonal services and food assistance, and disaster services to more than 80,000 people in need each year. And whereas the Salvation Army of Broward County continually strives to provide faith-based and practical solutions to transform lives, its staff provides a spiritual foundation and authentic life skills training to get people off the street and transform into productive members of our community. It provides year-round pathways of hope, job training, rent, mortgage, and utility assistance. And whereas the Salvation Army of Broward County offers giving and volunteer opportunities in a variety of areas to promote goodwill and provide opportunities for personal and professional growth while doing the most good for our South Florida community. Now, therefore, we, as city commissioners of the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 9th through 15th, 2022, as National Salvation Army Week in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and dated this, the 17th day of May, 2022, and signed by our mayor, the Honorable Dean J. Trentalis. Major, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Commissioner, for those wonderful words of encouragement. And we pledge since 1926 to be here to serve the less fortunate in our community. Jesus said, "The poor you will have with you always." And so we're banking on that. We're going to stay in town for a little bit longer, and we're going to serve those in great need. We have 325 beds in total in town. Which really includes our adult rehabilitation center. There are 101 men in that substance abuse program right down the street on Broward Boulevard. Down from that, coming this way, 1445, we have another almost 200 beds. And we have 32 apartment complex dwellings in Hollywood. And through that total program, we're assisting individuals. We're trying to get them off the street, off the sidewalk, downtown, and to our building. And the demand is so big that we're undergoing in preparation for a capital campaign to rehab our facility, and that is to expand it as well. We've been serving the poor there for the last 30 years on Broward Boulevard at 1445. It is worn out. I don't know if you know anything about sheltering, but when you're doing that kind of a business, it wears down very quickly. And we're excited to hear how much the city is behind us in that. In fact, we had an opportunity to the House of Representatives to send in a proposal, and the House Representative McCormick is helping us to maybe even attract some DC funds for our community. And so we want to just thank you for this opportunity to serve and expand. The more people we have that are homeless and the more able we're able to serve by expanding, then we can make the gateway of our city a little bit more enjoyable, but more importantly, we can have people move from that guttermost to the uttermost, that pathway of hope. Thank you for your support, and Your Honor, you're a great guy. First time I met him, he says, "Salvation Army, I always helps the homeless." First words out of his mouth. And I was a new kid on a block that was 3 years ago, been here now for 3 years, and now I understand why you were excited to see us. And we're here to serve. God bless you, sir.
And thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate for all your service in our
Thank
community.
you.
Thank you. Let's get a photo.
And sorry for the sales pitch.
Great. And at holiday time, make sure you all stuff those boxes, right? Ring the bell. Well, Commissioner Glassman, maybe you can stay there. We have something else for you to do. We ask you now to present a proclamation regarding National Public Works Week in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Is Mr. Alan Dodd here?
Yes.
Colonel Dodd, please step.
And I would like to ask
Center.
everyone from the staff from Public Works to please join us in the well. I know we have a long list. There are a lot of people here. Yes, we are. That's wonderful. And I want to thank you for the wonderful hot dog lunch today. I look forward
Yes,
to that every year.
Yep. We should do that every week.
Every week.
It was good.
The major was right. You do have a way with words. This is great.
Let's hope a pipe doesn't need fixing.
We won't have an audience when you're done with this proclamation.
I know. Watch what you wish for, Commissioner Glassman.
Let's fill it up.
These are the folks that fix your pipes.
This is great. Thank you. Huh? Thank you, yes. These ladies and gentlemen do deserve a hand, and you'll know why when I do read this. Many people do not know every single thing that our folks in Public Works do for us on a daily basis, and it really is an amazing workload. I'm very proud and pleased to read this from the Office of the Mayor, City of Fort Lauderdale, a proclamation in recognition of National Public Works Week, May 15th through 21st, 2022. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the high quality of life and the well-being of the people in the city of Fort Lauderdale. And whereas the theme of this year's National Public Works Week is Ready and Resilient, which appropriately reflects the Public Works Department's commitment to making a difference in the lives of the neighbors they serve. And whereas the Public Works Department plays a critical role in city operations and maintaining infrastructure, each year the department provides quality drinking water to our neighbors, visitors, and businesses, and is responsible for the city's wastewater and stormwater systems. And whereas Public Works employees maintain stormwater catch basins, resurface pavement, plant and distribute trees, collect and dispose of solid waste and recycling, sweep city streets, and complete community improvement projects. And whereas the Public Works team of professionals keeps an entire fleet of vehicles operating efficiently while reducing fuel consumption and led the effort to decrease electricity consumption. They handle calls to our 24/7 neighbor service center and stand ready to work alongside our first responders whenever and wherever disaster strikes. And whereas Public Works employees are here to serve our neighbors with integrity, compassion, accountability, respect, and excellence. And whereas this year marks the 62nd annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, we, as City Commissioners of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through 21st, 2022, as National Public Works Week in the City of Fort Lauderdale, and we call upon all neighbors and civic organizations to recognize the contributions that Public Works employees make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. And dated this, the 17th day of May, 2022, and signed by our Mayor, the Honorable Dean J. Trentalis. Give them a hand, yeah. Bravo. Give them a big hand, everybody. Yes. Amazing workload. Yes. Thank you, everyone. And I'm very pleased to introduce to you all this evening the Director of the Department of Public Works in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Mr. Alan Dodd, to say a few words. Alan?
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the Public Works team, I'd like to thank the Commission and everyone here for recognizing your Public Works employees as we fulfill our mission for the city and for our residents. We have 454 extremely talented and dedicated employees who are working 24/7, 365 days a year to provide essential services, to be there when you need them, and they are always available when that call comes in to do whatever is necessary. It's a lot more than just fixing pipes in the ground and responding. They're the ones who are providing the water. They're helping our city to adjust to climate change and sea level rise. They're protecting the natural environment and picking up the trash every day. And there's so many achievements that we've had over the past year, but I just want to recognize one person out of this crew for an extremely exceptional achievement they accomplished. Part of our celebration of Public Works Week is to announce fleet services were ranked as the number 5 best fleet in North America for 2022. To earn this recognition, Sandy Leonard and his team are using industry best practices in operational efficiency, sustainability, technology, and asset management. A few examples of Fleet's lifestyle management plan over the past years, changes that he has made, has been to reduce our fuel consumption by more than 120,000 gallons annually, and our maintenance costs by 20%, even though the number of vehicles that we're having to service has increased by 10% during that same time period. Sandy has introduced new technologies like idle mitigation systems, solar-powered EV charging stations, and is making the fleet management among the very best in the nation. So I would like to ask Sandy if he could join in the center to receive this award from the North American Fleet Association. So thank you very much.
Thank you, folks, and thank you for your service to our community. Before we begin the meeting, I just want to take a moment and announce that May 28th, a week from Saturday, is our Great American Beach Party. This is an annual event which we do pretty much to celebrate Memorial Day. It's a fun side of Memorial Day, and it starts at 11 a.m. and goes to 6:30 p.m. It's at the new Las Olas Oceanside Park. I guess it's not new anymore, but right at the end of East Las Olas Boulevard. There'll be live bands, a kids zone, an art show, classic car show, sand sculpting contest, the SOCOM Para Commandos, and of course a tribute to the U.S. Armed Forces. We really hope that you'll all be able to participate in this. It's one of those events that is a signature event of the city of Fort Lauderdale, and I know, Commissioner, are you going to be there? I'm going to be there.
I wouldn't miss it, Mayor.
Of course.
This is called stretch now, right? This is called stretch.
It's in your district.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Let's just stretch.
Also, on Memorial Day, I want to invite everybody to come to the Lauderdale, the cemetery on the south side of town, where at 9 o'clock we will have our traditional Memorial Day service, recognizing the men and women in the armed services who we lost in battle, and I really hope that the community can come out and join in the recognition of those folks. It's an annual event, and then that same morning at 11 o'clock we will have a memorial at the Sandy Nininger statue, which is in front of the Broward Center for Performing Arts. It's an event put on by the American Legion, local American Legion post, and we partner with them to recognize the men and women who past and currently serve in the armed forces. Okay, we're waiting for Commissioner Sorensen to come so we can begin our meeting. I understand he's on his way.
He told me about 3 minutes he should be
3
here,
minutes,
so.
okay. 3 minutes.
Any more announcements you can make?
What's that?
So if you've got any more announcements to make, this would be a good time.
Are you running for Senate?
No, I'm staying put, actually.
Staying put, okay.
I am staying put, yes.
Well, let me
Does
just
everyone
say-
understand, though, that we do need to have a quorum physically in person because the county did have their emergency orders every week since COVID began, but they actually lifted them a week ago, which meant that you couldn't just call in and be
couldn't
on
attend
Zoom.
by Zoom. You had
Could
to
not.
attend
You had to be
in person.
physically present. So that's why we're just holding here now, hoping to get a third.
Two people are ill, or attending other events, and there's Commissioner Moritas and Commissioner McKenzie, who indicated previously they would not be able to attend tonight's meeting. So just give us a second. We're waiting for Commissioner, the Vice Mayor, to park his car and arrive at tonight's meeting. So let's take a 10-minute break. All right?
Okay.
Take a 10-minute break. Camera rolling? Good. Okay, thank you, everybody. We appreciate your patience. We're back in business. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Moritas is not present. Commissioner Glassman? Commissioner McKinsey is not present. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Present.
Mayor Trentalis.
Here, thank you. We have a quorum. We have one agenda announcement. There's going to be a walk-on. This is regarding a motion to approve a music exemption, alcohol, and road closure for the Riverwalk Fort Lauderdale, Inc. to host the City of Fort Lauderdale Riverwalk Panther Watch Party. Woo! Woohoo! Woo! Make sure you're all there. We're winners here. Then CM2 is being removed, CM5 is being removed, CR1 is being removed, and R5 is being removed. So there's really nothing left for us to do tonight, so the meeting's over.
And I have one more request.
But thank you
Mr.
for
Mayor.
coming.
Thank you for coming.
Mayor, I've got one additional request for modification.
I'm sorry?
I have one additional request for modification. The applicant in M1 would like to be represented by counsel when they appear before the commission. They've asked to be deferred into June 7th, 2022.
Which item is that?
M1.
M1? Okay. So other than those removals, does anybody have any consent agenda items they would like? Well, first of all, let's have approval of the minutes in the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
You're going to have to do that all night, by the way.
No, it's going to be. Alan, how does it work when, if there are just three of us, it's just majority, huh? Is
The majority of who's here.
majority of who's here.
Yeah.
That's what we do. So it's
I
going to be,
can't move or second.
you can't move or second. Okay. So it's going to be 2-1 or maybe some 3-0 votes. All right. Very nice. Thank you.
You have great power tonight.
That's right.
Exercise it wisely.
Right.
Okay. Okay. There's a motion to approve the minutes in the agenda. It's been seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. So we've done the presentations, and thank you all for being here for that. And now, what comes next is what we call our consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of items which the City Commission will vote on all at once, unless there's a member of the City Commission that requests that an item be pulled. At that time, we will discuss that item separately, and we can vote on the rest of the agenda items. If there's an item that you want to speak on that has not been pulled, we will invite you to come at the beginning of the proceedings to come to the podium and speak with regard to that particular agenda item. So right now, of the consent agenda items, CM2, CM5, CR1 have been removed. Commissioner Glassman, do you have any others you'd like to pull?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. CM1 and CR6.
Okay, and Vice Mayor.
Nothing additional, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay. Nothing additional. Okay, so Harriet Ottenheimer is here to speak. Well, is your address really Hollywood? Where are you? Yes, you are. Okay. We allow people, it's just presentations that we say out of.
That's
some
correct.
People cannot. Right. Okay. So Harriet is here from the Master Chorale of South Florida. So Harriet, come on up. This is regarding CR3, which has not been pulled. CR3 is a resolution amending resolution number 21-255 to revise the public purpose for providing funds to 3 nonprofit organizations receiving $25,000 or less in grant funding for fiscal year 2022.
Are you just here if the commission has questions for you, or did you plan on presenting?
Is
I
this
believe it's just for questions only.
Okay. Same with Brianna Obbs. Brianna, same thing with just questions, right? And Terry, same thing? Gotcha. Okay. There's that. And then CR6 has been pulled, and then 1. Okay, great. So, except for CM2, CM5, CR1, CM1, and CR6, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Moved.
And second.
Great, moved and second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and those consent agenda items are now approved. Now, let's move over to CM1.
Thank you, Mayor. And I pulled this item not because I have any issues with this item at all. In fact, I think it's going to be a great event. I'm looking forward to it. But I just want to relay conversations that we've been having consistently at my District 2 pre-agenda meetings on Monday evenings before the commission meeting. And again, Chris, I know I've said this before, but this is an issue at every pre-agenda meeting. Everyone loves the beach, and we understand that. But I think that we need a much more holistic approach to how events come to us on the beach and how they are calendared. Everyone knows that right now we're in the midst of a huge project at the Las Olas Marina, right at the foot of the bridge. It really is impacting hundreds and hundreds of condominiums in that area, folks that are trying to either leave their home, get back to their home. So what I wanted to say is that I think that we have to do a better job, and this comes up at every meeting. During events, we need more folks out on the streets. We need more people directing traffic, especially at the pinch points, especially at the intersections. We need to keep traffic flowing. We need to let people know how they can come and how they can go. The events, for instance, also sometimes are a little bunched up, CM1, CM4, same dates on the beach. It just sometimes is a little trying for the residents that live there, especially when we have multiple events at the beach. Another item that consistently comes up is with regards to our Festival Street, Las Olas between A1A and Seabreeze. I know that that was designed as a festival street and to be closed when we have events that necessitate the closing. But sometimes we get the feeling that it's closed just because we can close it. And many times people will see that there's really not that much happening there, whether it's vendors, booths, whatever. So maybe we need to have a better discussion among the events people about how we close, why we close, when we close. Now we're also using the Las Olas Promenade Park a lot on the southeast side of the Intracoastal. That's a lovely, expansive area, beautiful views of the Intracoastal. Not quite set up in terms of electricity, bathrooms, other things that we might want to think about in the future if we are really going to continue to have events there. But I'm just asking for us to have a little bit more sensitivity to all of the construction that's happening. Take a look at these events and these calendared items a little bit holistically in terms of really just making sure that we're looking at every single angle and also with regards to multiple events on the same days, same weekends. That's all. But I'm very happy to move the item. I didn't want to make you guys nervous or anything like that. I apologize.
Too late.
Too late. You know, a little
in the community. That's the way we look at it, and it's a privilege. It's not something that we take for granted. And addressing your specific concerns about traffic, and the same thing. Bill Brown with the Central Beach Alliance was saying that we really need to find a better way to make sure that traffic's directed so that it gets people out of there the quickest, not just have everybody go up Las Olas, but go back and forth through using both north and south exits. We've also spoken with Major Schultz, which we're going to have a meeting down there, and we're going to address those and make sure this is hopefully a model for the future that we can use, because it's a great park and it's a great place to do it. It's also less traffic, because it should provide less traffic because we have the parking lot right there. So that really kind of makes it a little bit easier, especially for pedestrian traffic, that is. So we really hope that this is going to be a model for the future.
No, and I appreciate that. I know you'll do a good job. For instance, also, Chris, on the Cancer March, the one lane closed in each direction severely impacts a lot of the road closures in and around the Las Olas Marina. But yet, I explained, and we spoke about it last night at my meeting, and I said, well, it's between 7 and 8:30 in the morning, so that's kind of early. It's a Saturday morning. It shouldn't be too impactful, but still to some people it will be. But I just think that there's so many factors that we need to be just a little bit more cognizant of, and just a little bit more understanding of all of the, basically thousands of people that live in that Central Beach area. And again, because of all of the road construction, road closures, projects going on, I think we just have to have those kinds of discussions when these events, move forward. That's all. Thank you.
Would you like to move the item?
Be very happy to move the item.
Okay,
Thank you.
CM1 is now moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the item is approved. Thank you,
Thank you
fellas.
so much.
CR6. Commissioner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. CR6. So what I'd like to be able to do is maybe just have this item deferred. I've had discussions, and Troy's here to speak. Troy is the president of Middle River Terrace neighborhood in District 2. We look at land like this. We know how expensive land has been. It's been difficult for us to purchase land for park issues, land acquisition because of the price of land today. But here is possibly an opportunity where we can maybe just defer this, putting this out to bid for these 2 parcels in an area of Middle River Terrace that maybe is a little bit neglected, and have a discussion with the neighborhood in terms of some sort of either pocket park or community garden, something that they've talked about. So I would just like to actually ask Troy to speak about that for a few moments if he could. And then what I would do is I would like to request that we defer this item to give the neighborhood a chance to talk to all of the immediate neighborhoods of these, the immediate neighbors of these parcels, come up with a plan and something that they think would be just a win-win for the city and for Middle River Terrace. Troy?
Hi, Troy. Before you begin, first of all, thank you for coming. But before you begin, this looks like a really small piece of property. How would you get a pocket park out of that?
Well, there's 2 parcels here.
I'm looking at it on the map.
Yes. It's about 7,000 square feet. You can do a community, you can do something with 7,000 square feet. I mean, we're saying that we're putting them out for 162,000, 81,000 a parcel. I think, 7,000 square feet in a neighborhood when you don't have something and you don't have 7,000 square feet is better than not having those 7,000 square feet.
Well, that's interesting logic, but in
Thank you.
terms of
Remember, only 2 of us can
Yeah, I know.
overrule you here. We only need 2 of us. So,
What else can we do tonight? I feel like we could do a lot.
I'm
tonight.
starting to feel a lot.
Feeling
I'm
empowered,
a lot.
excited.
Yes, we
Right.
can do a lot. So go ahead, Mayor. Finish your thought.
we need a charter change. I think the mayor should have veto power in case there is a renegade commission. So, I mean, just look at that. I mean, you can't even build a house on it.
Well,
7,000 square feet is a very, very small.
okay, so why are we putting it out to bid for 162,000? What do we expect
Well,
someone to
I
do?
said you can barely build a house on it.
Oh, okay.
Barely.
Well, let's hear from the neighborhood.
We can hear from the neighborhood,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, let's be cautious about saying a pocket park, because that requires a significant amount of investment, and I'm not sure what the return would be for something that is hidden and small. I think the neighborhood deserves more than that. If we wanted to include the lot to the south, if we could buy that too, now we're talking about a real little pocket park. But anyway,
Well, these are all options. We've tried several things in the neighborhood. People either won't sell or they're asking just astronomical prices for
Okay.
the land. But again, my intention tonight is to at least defer it so we don't put it out there for bid, and we give the neighborhood a chance to just, speak with us about
Okay.
ideas.
okay, Mr. Liggett, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, Commissioner Glassman. Thank you for having me. I know that the neighborhood just learned about these properties the end of last week when the agenda came out. I will let you know that we've been working with Commissioner Glassman. He's been very helpful in trying to help us find other park, empty land for parks in our neighborhood. We have Middle River Terrace Park, but there are different ends of our neighborhood that could really benefit from a park, particularly this area south of 13th Street. I agree it's small. It's surrounded by small multifamily apartments that I think could benefit from a community garden. And I will suggest that we're just starting this process of thinking about it. And we would like maybe a month to think about it and plan it. And I will say, in the back of my mind, I thought if you added the lot next door, then you'd really have a substantive-sized park, and I think it would make a big impact on that neighborhood. So all we're really asking for is a little bit of time to work with the city to see if we can work something out. Thank you.
Makes sense.
Okay.
I would move to defer this item until we have that opportunity.
Second.
All in favor?
Bring it.
All in favor, please indicate please call the roll on the motion to defer to what date? We have to have a date.
You
Troy,
don't-
30
you
days?
ac-
Well,
Actually, you don't need a date certain in this case because we haven't done any publication on it, so.
Okay,
You can do a date certain, but you don't have to.
all right, well, we'll just defer it for now.
let's see how it goes.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the item is deferred. That is CR6. So that concludes all the consent agenda items. M1, there's a request that that be deferred as well. Do we have a date certain for that?
M167, June 7th, please.
June 7th? So there's a request to defer the application for the outdoor event related to the exotics on Las Olas 5.
Who requested the deferment?
The applicant did, they requested because they want to be represented by counsel when it's presented to the commission, and counsel had a conflict tonight, so they asked to defer for one meeting so that they could, because the recommendation that we've made is a recommendation to deny, I think that's probably appropriate.
Okay.
All right, keep in mind that the recommendation to deny, I personally feel that the reasons are legitimate, but I think they can be resolvable. I mean, it has to do with security and trash and all that. And so I hope when they come back that they might have something to report to us, because this was a great event. I know there's conflicting opinions from the Las Olas associations to whether they want this or not, but I do feel that when I've attended it, it's been a great event, gets a huge turnout, and I think it does a great benefit to the merchants on Las Olas to have that. But I understand that there's a lot of frustration with the repeated closing of the street. Oh, sorry. I'll stop talking. But I do think that I would encourage them to come back with solutions to the concerns that we have, and hopefully we can try to resolve this in their favor. So,
Chris, when it does come back to us,
Yes.
if I could just request the last bullet on the CAM for the reasons why it's being recommended for denial. It states that the event occurs during the Fort Lauderdale Pride event. Pride's a major event on the Barrier Island. East Las Olas Boulevard is a city major collector, and additional impacts to this street will cause a major impact to traffic. But I believe that the Pride event was moved from these dates in November to February, the following February. So I think we need to just get clarity on that. So if this comes back to us in June and we republish this, it could be corrected.
Okay.
okay. Any other comments on this? If not, do I hear a
Motion to defer to June 7.
Second?
please call the roll?
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and M1 is now deferred to June 7th. Oh. Okay. Thank you, folks. M2, this is a motion for discussion. City Commission request for review. Commissioner Steve Glassman has filed a statement of intent with the city clerk requesting that the City Commission adopt a motion to set a hearing to review the development permit application for Lumiere, 500 Hendricks Isle, in accordance with Section 47-26A, 2A of the Unified Land Development Regulations. Should the commission find that the characteristics of the project and the surrounding area requires additional review in order to ensure that development standards and criteria have been met, and to ensure that the area surrounding the development is protected from the impacts of the development, the City Commission may adopt a motion to set a hearing to review the application. The motion approving a City Commission request for review shall be set at a hearing no later than 60 days from the date the motion is adopted. Applicable hearing dates within the next 60 days are as follows: June 21st, 2022, and July 5th, 2022. At this time, I will entertain a motion, and then we'll have discussion. Someone like to move the item?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded. But I believe we have a few people who signed up to speak. Why don't we begin with Andrew Shine? Andrew, where are you? There you are. Would you like to begin the discussion? You are representing the applicant, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
So please tell us what's going on here.
Good evening. Andrew Shine with Lockery and Chakas here representing the applicant. I did have a presentation of the project. I don't necessarily need to go through it. But I do need to put at the beginning, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't do this. In 2019-2020, the Florida legislature passed a statute regarding the issuance of development permits. It was codified as section 166.033 of the Florida statutes, and I do have copies if anybody else wants a copy. Under this statute, essentially for applications that require a quasi-judicial or public hearing for approval for development permits, the statute states that within 180 days for applications that require final action through a quasi-judicial hearing or a public hearing, the municipality must approve with conditions, or deny the application for a development permit or development order. So under this Florida statute, the legislature said you have 180 days to approve, deny, or deny with conditions.
180 days from when?
From the date that the application is deemed complete.
And who deems that?
Generally, in this city, city staff generally. On November 8th, 2021, we received the email from city staff saying in no uncertain terms that our application criteria, that we've met the application criteria and it has been deemed complete. So that's November 8th, 2021. Staff deemed our application complete. On April 20th, we had our Planning and Zoning Board hearing, which was 163 days after it was deemed complete, within the 180 days. And it was approved at Planning and Zoning Board. And today we're at day 190. So if it is set for a de novo hearing, I just want to make the commission aware of this statute. We believe it would be a violation of this statute because it has the 180-day requirement. It can be waived by both parties. We have not waived it, though, in this instance.
Well, Andrew, what's a few days between friends here? Are you saying that there's a condition precedent that must be fulfilled before we can even consider this motion?
That's not, I mean, that's, our position is that it has to be approved within 180 days or denied within 180 days. In this case, it was approved by Planning and Zoning Board within 180 days.
Right, but doesn't that prevent the city commission from acting in its authority to review this because of just the cycle of approvals and the delays through the approval process? I mean, I don't think there's an intentional. There was an intent to try to put your client at risk in any way, but at the same time, I do think that the city commission reserves onto itself the right to at least make that decision. And you're saying that the state statute takes that power away from us.
Within that certain time limit, that is my understanding. Yes, I don't want to give legal advice to the commission. I'll leave that up to the city attorney's office. But that is the reading of the statute, and I understand that some municipalities have also adopted regulations to address and make sure that they comply with the statute.
So, Mayor, Mr. Shine brought this issue to our attention right before the meeting. So we're going to have to look to see that he's correct. His representation of the statute is correct, and the dates as well. We agree with those. We have to look at our call-up process in conjunction with that, and we'll have to do a little research. We think of it more as an appeal. I believe Mr. Shine is going to argue that essentially is not. So we are going to have to determine whether we can coincide our ULDR call-up provision in this case and get it to comply with Florida statutes and see if there's any way that it starts the clock again or something to that effect. So we will do that. What you can do tonight, if you want, is to go ahead and have your discussions. If you want to go ahead and if you meet the standard and find that there is a reason to call the de novo, you can go ahead and call the de novo. We'll just have to determine between that time and today as to whether you can actually have the de novo. But if you want to proceed tonight and have the discussions and actually set the de novo or decide not to set a de novo, you can do that, and then we'll proceed and advise you from there once we've looked at the statute further.
Alan, will you also?
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
Right. Will you also be looking at? Mr. Shine said that it can be waived by both parties. They have not. So will we also be looking at other options in terms of how this could be waived that might not have to do with the parties themselves, but just the city and our process? Because obviously this did receive a 4-3 support vote of approval at Planning and Zoning. So it received quote, approval, because this was a level 3 project. But then, as you said, we have it where we can, as a commission, call it up, which is what I did. So that process then continued.
It does, but to Mr. Shine's point, if it continues beyond the 180 days, I believe Mr. Shine's argument is going to be that you're converting it from a level 3 to a level 4. So that's what we're going to have to work out. If that's the case, we'll have to, see what we can do under the statute. But we'll look at all possibilities. But if you want to go through the exercise tonight of discussing it and dealing with those issues, we can address that between now and the time you set for hearing, or if you decide not to set a hearing, that'll take care of it as well.
Do you want us to defer this until that opinion is rendered?
That's entirely up to you.
That was I'll leave it up to District Commissioner, but that was my thinking is because we're past that 180 days, if that matters or not, does it make sense for you to evaluate Alan and then come back to us at the next commission meeting, knowing that for our discussion? I don't know. It's up to you, Commissioner, whatever you want to do.
I'm prepared to continue the discussion.
Well, but I mean, if this discussion is moot because we are...
Well, the one aspect, Mr. Spence reminded me that within our ULDR, though, we have a limited amount of time to go ahead and call that that de novo hearing. So if you don't do it tonight, you'll run out of that time. You'll run out of that clock also.
Yeah, so there's two different clocks running here. So I'd rather err on the side of caution and move forward with our discussion tonight and vote one way or the other, as opposed to having both clocks run out. At least we have one clock in our favor.
Okay, we'll proceed then. All right, thank you, Mr. Shine. Please, if you can remain here for any questions, we appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do have a brief presentation. It won't take too long.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
It is a 3-part presentation. Don't let that scare you. The first is an actual presentation of the project. The second is cleaning things up from the Planning and Zoning Board minutes that were in the backup. And the third is talking about possible next steps. So this is the project location. It's at 500 Hendricks Isle on the north side of the Isle. The owner owns both sides of the property. Right now, the west is used for a liveaboard use. Whether it's a legal permitted use there or not, they did get a variance in the 70s for it. That's neither here nor there because we are proposing to get rid of the liveaboard use. And on the east side is a 5-unit condo marina type building. This is the project we are proposing. It's a 5-story building consisting of 7 units, ground floor parking, all of the required parking is in the garage. This is the view looking southeast, and you can see the 5-story building to the south of us there. We're getting rid of all of the existing back-out parking that's there now. We did hear that drainage on Hendricks Isle was a major concern. Right now they have back-out parking that slopes down into the street. So we are getting rid of that back-out parking, proposing a significant amount of landscaping here, a lot of pervious surfaces, and all stormwater will be retained on site in accordance with the county's regulations that we have to do, frankly. This is the view from the waterway. We have balconies on the east.
Mr. Shine, isn't the issue here tonight how close it is to, you're asking for a side yard modification. How close are you to the buildings to the north and the south of you?
To the north, we are about 17 and a half feet. They are about 5 feet from the property line. We will be 12 and a half feet. To the building to the south, right now, we are 30 feet 4 inches from them right now. And we're proposing 37 feet 9 inches from them, which is, again, 12 and a half feet from our property line. We did do this analysis, and this analysis isn't, it's good for understanding what the actual, what you'll see when you're driving down Hendricks. So we did do analysis of how far buildings are separated from their neighbor. And in this analysis, I'm assuming this is the first time everybody saw this, so I wanted to go through I know, but I wanted to go through the basics of it. Anyway, we'll be 37 feet 9 inches, which under the properties that we analyzed is the second furthest from the neighbor to the south.
So this is 37 feet 9 inches from building to building or from the property line?
Building to building.
Building to building. And how far from the property line?
12 and a half feet.
12 and a half.
Yes.
So the other 25 is on the other property.
Right. And that's, we got into this a little bit, not a little bit, a lot, in our building frontage analysis, which is when you drive down Hendricks Isle, you see just building street walls after building street walls. There's no maximum street wall length for a building on Hendricks like there is in downtown. So as long as you have your setbacks, you can do an assemblage of however many parcels and just have an entire building on the whole way. So what we did is we analyzed the property frontage and what percent of the property frontage is building. We're at 75%, which is the second lowest, meaning we have the second highest percent of our building being setbacks. So when we were analyzing neighborhood compatibility, we took this analysis and quantified it. A lot of the times we think neighborhood compatibility is a really subjective standard, but there are ways to quantify it, particularly in this instance, and we did so here. And we believe that we are well within the existing pattern of development in the area and exceeding that in many aspects as well. This is not a large building. It's only 75 feet long. So it doesn't create that street wall, and it does allow for more light and air than you otherwise would have with these large assemblages of parcels on Hendricks. Okay. I think I went through the entire presentation now, and I'm not sure. But if we have any questions, definitely let me know. But just to clean other things up from P&Z, and that'll get me smoothly into the third point. The P&Z vote was 4-3. 2 people recused themselves. One person recused himself, one person was not there. One person had to recuse himself because the landscape architect worked on this project. And the last thing to clean up from P&Z really gets me into my final conversation, and it is, if this is called up, next steps. We have met with the neighbors and the association many times. The first time we reached out to them was November 23rd, letting them know of the DRC hearing, which was December 14th. We let them know the place and time. We didn't hear back until late December, well after the DRC meeting. They might have had one representative at the DRC meeting, but these issues were not raised that were raised now. So we had kept trying to reach out to first the property manager of the building to the south, and then the president of the association. Eventually, we did get a meeting with them, but it was 2 weeks before the Planning and Zoning Board hearing, where they did come with, requests, but we meet with neighbors frequently on projects and try to do so as early on in the process as possible. Because at that point, it's fairly easy to do redesigns. You're not going through 3 months of DRC comments and then redesigning the property again. So we try to meet with these neighbors as early as possible. And we tried many a time in this instance, and it just didn't work. We were getting stonewalled. We didn't have our emails responded to, and I have copies of these emails as well. But we did get a meeting with them 2 weeks before the P&Z hearing. There were about 40 folks there, heard a lot of their concerns. A lot of their concerns were already addressed in our plans, but we did hear their concerns. At the P&Z meeting, the representative for the building to the south, which was one of the larger complainants for this project, their representative, and it's in the minutes, bottom of page 5, was, I don't want to use the word complaining, but I guess complaining about things about the project, like we didn't have fenestration on the south. We didn't have balconies on the south, which is true, and we didn't provide balconies on purpose. I'm getting somewhere, don't worry. I got up and I said, we will gladly provide balconies on the project. We provided it. We took them off because we heard you didn't want balconies. And there was a lot of sound in the audience at that point saying, no, we don't want balconies. So that leads me into my final point of next steps. We met with the new representative of the building to the south this morning, and the conversation was, if it is set for a hearing, we'll come up with our list of what everybody can agree on and what we want. And this is not the time to do this. If we heard some of these demands, first of all, we still don't know what they are. We still don't know the exact. Is it 1 floor off the top? Is it 5 feet back on the 5th floor? We don't know. And we cannot reasonably have the architect spend countless hours, tens of thousands of dollars to put together an option, a full redesign of the project, mind you, that we don't even know if they'll accept, if the neighbors will accept. So we can't know what to do to satisfy them if they don't know what to do to satisfy themselves and what they'll be happy with. So after our meeting today, they said if it is called up and set for a de novo hearing, we'll get everybody together and come up and see what everybody will accept. But this is not the time to do it. We are so far into the process now. It's already been approved by Planning and Zoning Board. We would have loved if they showed up to our DRC meeting, met with us. We would have gladly worked with them. But coming to us at the 11th hour and coming up with all these demands is just, it's not right. especially when we believe that we designed a project that quantitatively is compatible with the neighborhood. It's compatible with the pattern of development. And that is the criteria here. Whether the pattern of development over the past 20 years has been proper, that's not for me to decide.
Well, I don't think, I think that we're not trying to replicate what's there, trying to improve what's there, right?
Understood.
And to some extent, I looked at your site plan, getting rid of that mess across the street and then getting rid of the back out parking, all of which improve. So you're saying, hey, look, we're doing some major improvements. We were looking for compromise, and so we're asking for the setback modification in order to be able to accommodate those other improvements.
Essentially, and improvements that we frankly didn't need to do.
Right. Okay. All right. Gotcha. All right. We have a few people signed up to speak, so why don't we ask them to come up and we'll hear from the neighborhood. I have Ellen Bogdanoff, but you're here representing whom? The neighbors? Yeah, please come up. Club at Hendricks, is that a building?
Yes, sir. Ellen Bogdanoff, representing Club at Hendricks. It's 444 Hendricks Isle. I guess this was a little bit of a blindside on the statutory reference, but it does talk about final action. And the final action of this commission is we have the right to appeal to the commission, and you're the final action. If nobody appeals within those 30 days, then the final action would be P&Z, but you would be the final action. So I think important enough to your point that we would have the opportunity to review the case law and to the legislative intent of the 180 days, but you all have given the right for people to determine that you have the final action on any property. Just to clarify, we did meet this morning because Commissioner Glassman asked us to try to work with the developer, and I asked, what modifications they would be willing to consider, and their attitude was, well, we're not going to discuss this until whether or not we get a de novo hearing. They are asking for a 30-foot modification. That is huge. It's a 100-foot lot. On a 100-foot lot, they're asking for a 30-foot modification. If you look at the code has certain criteria as a modification. To me, a modification is a de minimis, or it's like you need a little bit of wiggle room here or there to improve light, air, and the building itself. That's not what this is about. This is about purchasing a 100-foot lot and trying to put as much concrete on it as you can. It is a 55-story building, and they're asking for a setback because if they build a
55-foot
building.
You said 55 stories.
Oh, sorry, 55-foot building. We have those too, right? A 55-foot building.
That would give us a problem.
No, but you'd actually probably be able to have a lot more light and air in between. It would be tall and thin.
Absolutely.
It would be very thin. There'd be so much light and air.
I think we should have 3 commissioners all the time.
Okay.
But the reason in order to go 55 feet, you have to go out. There's no way to build a building, and I get that, but the code is not aspirational. The code is there to give notice to the neighbors and the developers as what is permitted. It's a 100-foot lot, a 55-foot building with setbacks that are asking for an additional 30 feet to encroach. And everybody keeps talking about the space between buildings. I think that's actually disingenuous because my client actually only asked for an 8-inch modification, which to me is a modification. When you ask for 30 feet, you're encroaching close to, in my opinion, a variance.
Well, that's a combined 30 feet on both sides, right?
They want 15 feet on each side.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
a combined 30 feet.
Right. So they're using the distance between the buildings saying, oh, there's a big distance. Well, that's because my client complied with the setbacks and asked for a minor modification. And I think it's important to note that in the last year and a half.
So how far is your client away from the property line?
They have complied with the setbacks, but asked for an 8-inch modification.
Right, but do you know, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but do you know how far the edge of the building is to the edge of their property line?
It is 24 feet.
24 feet.
24 feet. And they're only 50, they're not 55 feet. They're only 51 or 52 feet. They're actually shorter, so that it's 1/2 of the build, the height of the
And what's the height limitation on that?
55.
55.
55?
It's 5 stories. So we don't have an objection with the 5 stories. We have an objection with the setback, and they can't build 5 stories on a 100-foot lot. The lot to the south is much larger. So it's important to note that in the last year and a half, they have developed a neighborhood association because they had no collective voice or any way to object to what was happening on the streets. What happened in 2007, 2016 is a different ballgame. A lot of the properties were owned by investors. And of course, investors are not going to complain because they want to get the maximum amount of money on the property. We now have a significant number of residents that are a part of this association that are saying, it's time to look at these two streets differently, because we are permanent residents of the street. These are no longer investor properties where you have rentals and you have liveaboards. I lived on Fiesta Way, and I know that Hendricks and Isle of Venice historically were the streets that, had the transient population.
Sketchy.
It's right. It's changing. It's changing significantly. And I think we need to respect that. So
Okay.
our ask here is a de novo hearing to give us an opportunity to address the statutory references that were brought up today and to make the case on why we feel that 30 feet additional setback is,
Okay.
significant.
All right, thank you. Annie Carruthers, followed by Debbie Eisinger, followed by Randy Aubie. Is Annie here? You skip? Okay. Debbie Eisinger, followed by Randy. Debbie Eisinger represents the Neighborhood Association, correct?
Yeah, she's the president.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor Sorensen, and Commissioner Glassman. I guess I don't have to go through the whole list there then.
Right.
But, it was actually just over, and I'm a little shorter, so I got to lower the mic here. It was actually just over a year ago that the Hendricks Isle of Venice Neighborhood Association was formed. And again, I either had the privilege or I drew the short straw, but yes, I'm the president. And as Ellen had said, the formation of the Volunteer Association actually was largely in response to the rapid surge of redevelopment along the Two Finger Islands. Hendricks Isle and Isle of Venice have been rapidly changing from mostly what was developer-owned properties to full-time resident ownership. Those of us who purchased in what you would call luxury boutique condominiums and townhomes for the purpose of enjoying Fort Lauderdale lifestyle. As you know, I moved from Cooper City to be here in Fort Lauderdale. Love the beaches, love the shops, and everything else along in Fort Lauderdale. So we are desirous of supporting smart growth and development. Many of the luxury developments that were built from around the late 90s to today, they did embrace the idea of maintaining the openness from the streets to the waterways and allowing air, light, and wind to freely circulate as required by the yard modification codes in the city. Unfortunately, I think what's happened is the recent boom in the real estate market, investor developers seem to have flocked to the area with the desire of maximizing developmental space without any consideration to neighborhood compatibility or concerns for the impact that it is going to have on the neighbors. Prior to the establishment of our neighborhood association, there were some recent development projects that were approved, and no one could argue whether they were compatible with the neighborhood or meet with city's code requirements for modifications, because many of us had no knowledge that it was being built. So without the neighborhood association, we just didn't know. There were signs on the properties, but we realized many of the signage was blocked by vehicles. So I'm asking you tonight, while we can't go back, we've got to, go forward, stop the building on, we can't stop buildings on some sites that are under construction, and they likely would have met with neighborhood opposition. But we've got to start working together to make certain that all future development is compatible with the neighborhood and is in compliance with city code requirements. As we look to the future, perhaps it would be in the best interest of the residents and city government, because we want to work together to look, can we create a master plan for the remaining parcels that can still be developed on Hendricks Isle and Isle of Venice? And I'm going to say, with respect to the 500 Isle project, I'll just finish then this last couple words. Many of the neighboring residents are opposed to the plans and disappointed in the strategies used by the developer to justify the project's neighborhood appropriateness. And there was someone at DRC back in November who's going to speak next, who did speak out in opposition to the project back then. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hello, Randy.
Hi, I'm Randy Obie, one of the founding members of our neighborhood association.
So you're representing the association also, okay. Please
I
proceed.
guess I'd like to start by saying that tonight, just like at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, Mr. Shine makes a lot of very misleading and inaccurate statements. And I think that's enough of a reason for us to request a de novo hearing. You know, it's unfortunate that the P&Z board members had to make a decision based on bad information. And I hope that doesn't happen again tonight.
Give us a couple of examples.
Pardon?
Give us a couple of examples.
Well, okay, so one example, he said earlier tonight that nobody spoke up at the DRC meeting. I was there, and I spoke on behalf of the neighborhood association, and I said we were adamantly opposed to the yard modifications that were being requested.
Okay.
Another thing, you know, that he talks about, he showed all those slides about frontage and all that kind of stuff, and he talked about setbacks of other 5-story buildings. You know, he would say, you know, this building got a 11-foot setback. But what he didn't say is that that building got an 11-foot setback for the first floor only. The rest of the building was set back to the appropriate amount. And there were numerous examples of buildings like that. There are no buildings on Hendricks Isle that have the kind of setbacks that he's requesting here. There's one other 5-story building on Hendricks Isle on a 100-foot lot. That building has the appropriate setbacks. The building has 7 units, and I think 10 or 11,000 total square feet. The 7-unit building that they're proposing to put on the same size lot is 22,500 square feet, more than twice the size. And you know, Mr. Shine didn't really talk about any of the rules for yard modifications, but one of them is, you know, we're supposed to maintain the spirit of the regulations. And I don't see that happening here at all. I would like to request the de novo hearing just so we have a chance to get the truth out, because that's not what you're hearing. That's not what the P&Z board members heard. There's more of the story.
All right, Randy, can I ask you a question? Let's say the city commission acts and approves a de novo hearing, and we hear the arguments for and against the yard modifications, and we also hear the improvements that they're making to the site with the landscaping and getting rid of backout parking, getting rid of the liveaboard arrangement across the street. What do you think the city commission should do to accommodate a developer that gratuitously invests on the site with landscaping and with rearranging the use of the site for the betterment of the street? Do you think there should be any sort of compromise that the commission should consider on behalf of the developer?
I think those are noble things to do, you know, and that happens with all the older buildings on Hendricks Isle and Isle of Venice. The old buildings look awful, and when they get torn down, they're replaced by nicer buildings. And so, yeah, that should be encouraged, but it should be encouraged with the proper size of the building on the lot that is there.
Well, I think what happens is that a developer spends money to change the arrangement at the ground level so that they reorganize. They spend money on landscaping and landscape design and all that, and they want to make it up somewhere. And they make it up by, instead of having that wedding cake design where they lose square footage on some of the upper floors, they make up for it by designing the building the way we're presented tonight. So I just want to know, do you think that a developer should be given an accommodation of some sort as a result of making that investment on the site, if the city were to do a de novo hearing?
Yeah, I think some sort of accommodation would make sense, not the yard modifications they're requesting. I mean,
Okay.
they're requesting like over like 55% reduction in the side setbacks that they're supposed to have. You know, a reasonable modification in my mind would be, 5%, 10%, 15%, not 55.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mayor, can I ask Alan a question?
Yeah, well, hold on a second. That's the last person. Does anyone else wish to speak? Did you sign up? Okay, you can't speak unless you sign up, so sign up with our clerk, and while the vice mayor asks the question, we'll get to you.
Alan, what's
Thank
the
you, Randy. Thank you.
Alan, what's the legal standard by which we can call for a de novo hearing? There's a bar that has to be met and a criteria. Can you tell us what that is again?
Sure.
They messed up.
I want to quote, so so essentially it's whether the new project, determining that the new project is in an area which, due to the characteristic of the project and surrounding area, requires additional review to ensure that development standards and criteria have been met, and, not or, but and, to ensure that the area surrounding the development is protected from the impact of the development. So it's pretty broad.
So it's a weaker standard than we used to have to apply. It's a much broader.
Exactly.
standard.
It's a very low bar for requesting a de novo hearing, and very vague as well, Alan, right? And is there any necessary articulation of cause or so forth?
Essentially, that you find the standard to have been established in order for you to call the de novo. Basically it.
Okay. So Mayor, you're smart just because it's very vague and yeah.
Well, it gives us
There's a lot of latitude, I guess.
Greater latitude to make a determination as to whether or not we are allowed to do a de novo
Okay.
hearing.
All right. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks.
So is it Lister?
Yes, it is.
Greg Lister.
Yes.
444 Hendricks Isle, Unit 501.
Correct.
3 minutes, sir.
I appreciate you allowing me to speak. I live in the building. Our whole building, I'm sure you got the emails, is definitely against this because of the amount of encroachment that it makes on the side yard modifications. I bought my unit personally 4 years ago. I did meet with an attorney and a land use person before and spoke to them about what they thought would be put on that building as far as what the code was. I went up and down the street with the attorney. He said, look, you really can't build a 5-story building on that lot based on how much you would have to commit. It just doesn't work. So at the first meeting, Andrew said, when Jay Scheckman offered to do a deferral to the next thing, so we had more time to talk, he basically said that no other building fit. And it's true. Because when you look at the code doesn't allow it because you could never get the parking to fit for a building that's that big. So I never in a million years believed that they would be able to build a building that was that tall. At the same time, I was not notified in any way by mail. The way that I found out about it was when I had a neighbor call me up about 2 weeks before and said that there would be a meeting at the building next door at the site, which I had a meeting this morning. I was not there, but I was basically told that Mr. Shine said that there was really nothing that we could do about it. It was all within code. I 100% would have opposed it much earlier. I think that Ellen, Ms. Bogdanoff, I called her pretty much right away and tried to hire her. So as soon as I found out that there was an issue with the building next door, I tried to actually make waves to where we could hire an attorney, and the building, I believe, did at the very end.
Is this address, is it next to this building?
Yes.
Directly, yeah, that building is basically directly on top of my side of the building.
Are you on the north or the south?
I'm on the north side, so
North
I'm
side.
directly next to that building.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Do we close public hearing? Let's move to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. There's a motion on the floor to, and this has been seconded, to open this up to a de novo hearing. Is there any further discussion on this, gentlemen?
I would like to say a few things, Mayor.
Yes.
Thanks. So I called up this item to set a de novo hearing. I watched the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, and, you know, I had like a lot of deja vu, and my friends over at Planning and Zoning and Department of Development Services will remember, I don't know if they remember exactly what I said years ago when I served on the Planning and Zoning Board. I always had issues as the aisles were being redeveloped. I had several issues. I had sometimes historic preservation issues when I thought that the buildings were worthy of historic preservation. Not all of the older buildings were, but some were, so I would ask for architectural resource surveys of some of these buildings, which we did, so that we preserve that history for the city. But my main concerns with a lot of the buildings on these aisles were, I guess I just knew that we were going to have an issue with parking. I knew we were going to have an issue with not enough light, air, sun, setbacks. I was not pleased with the pattern of side yard modifications that were granted routinely. And they can be. So, Mr. Lister, I say next time you're looking for a home and you're walking up and down properties, bring a different lawyer. That's for sure. Because unfortunately, some of these things can happen, and you're seeing how it can happen. So those were issues that I've always had. And then as the years go by, we see more and more of these buildings developed in the aisles, and for the most part, it's a good thing. But there is a pattern of side yard modifications. Some I think are egregious, some are minor, but it's not unheard of. But that to me now is all in the past. So I think as a commission now, we have to decide going forward, what is it that we want to see the future development? What is the precedent that we want to see set? So the side yard modification on this particular project, I believe should be, what, about 20, 25 feet, is it, on each side? 27 and a half, and we're looking at 12 and a half, I think, right? So instead of 27 and a half side yard modification required, 27 and a half feet is now going down to 12 and a half feet. That's a substantial side yard modification. When you're talking about the intent of the code wanting to have some separation between buildings and wanting to have the ability to walk down the street or live on the street, see the water, see the sky, and have some air between. So those are all reasons that I said, you know, we need to have this conversation. We need to have an adult conversation before more and more development comes for the remaining parcels, because I do believe that this is an important conversation to have. I did have a question also for Anthony, if that's okay. Because when I was reading, Anthony, when I'm going through the ULDR, I'm going to find it in a second.
While you're looking,
Go ahead.
you know, I'm having flashbacks to another building south of Las Olas, the 808 building. The same questions were raised. In fact, I raised those questions and concerns about the building being so close to the adjacent building, but the commission approved that. So I'll need to know what would be the difference here between that building and this building. That would be helpful for me in trying to decide what to do.
Right. Well, that would be a more extensive conversation because there are differences, but that's okay. So, Anthony, here we go. On page 4, actually it's Exhibit 5 in the backup on page 4 of 5, under Comprehensive Plan Consistency. It says on the end of the second line, staff has determined the proposed development is generally consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, goals, objectives, and policies, and then on and on and on and on. When we have the word generally consistent, what are we exactly talking about, or what does staff mean when it uses a phrase like that?
So, Anthony Fajardo, Development Services, City of Fort Lauderdale. So the comprehensive plan is your overarching document that controls intensities and densities in the city, as well as levels of service. However, the goals, objectives, and policies kind of guide what you want to do in the city from a long-term perspective. We look at those goals, objectives, and policies related to the requests just to ensure that it's in compliance. We say generally because they're not really specific. Sometimes they talk about, you should do this, or we would like to have this done by a certain date. So I'd have to look at the specific policy that was referenced to see what the language is, but it's meant to imply that under staff's analysis, this request for approval meets the comprehensive plan. We could come up with more definitive language, but the reason it's stated that way is because the comp plan in some instances is not specific to exactly how you accomplish that. It just says you should do it.
So let me ask you this. Is there a line that you feel you can go up to when staff is evaluating these types of projects with regards to side yard modifications? To me, if the code calls for a 27.5-foot yard side modification, side setback on both sides of this building, 100-foot parcel, what's acceptable in terms of, instead of 27.5 feet, we're now looking at 12.5 feet. That's a big difference.
Yes.
What is your line of acceptable in a side setback?
Well, my line might be different than yours or the neighbors, but when we look at these, we generally look at the development pattern that's been established along the corridor. Now, in this case, because it went to Planning and Zoning Board, it was up to them to determine if neighbor compatibility and the criteria for the yard modifications was met. There are instances on Hendricks Isles where you have setbacks, I believe, that were reduced to 7 feet. There are some that vary between that and the actual 25-foot or 25-foot basic setback. So it's a little bit of an analysis that goes into it. I don't know that I would say that you have a hard and fast number. I would say that if the City Commission does want staff to take a look at this, we could, because right now the criteria allows up to a 0 setback the way it's worded. You could request all the way down to nothing if that was.
Right, and that is, to me, an issue. So that's why I think that we do need to have a closer look at what it is we want to see going forward on these aisles. And I think whether it's a discussion with staff or discussion with commission, I just think that it's too loose right now, and it's too subjective, and I don't think it really works. I know this is only a 100 foot lot. And I certainly don't have any problem with someone coming in and wanting to build something beautiful and, making some money in the process. That's great. But I'm just a little bit nervous of the pattern that we might be establishing if we continue to look at, setback modifications this large. That's my issue, and that's why I just think this is worth, a de novo hearing to hear more and to really decide what it is we want to do as a commission on projects like this. Because I just think that this is a pivotal time in the development phase of these aisles. And I think that, they're just so different than the way they used to be. We've heard testimony tonight. These were very transient aisles, predominantly rental situations, liveaboards. It's just not that anymore. So we have to think of the people now that have made rather large investments in purchasing these properties. These are not cheap condominium properties along the aisles here. So I just think that we have to respect that, Mayor and Vice Mayor, and that's why I think we need to hear more, and that's why I move that we set a de novo hearing. Thanks, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, do you have any additional comments?
No, thanks, Mayor.
All right,
well, maybe one more. Maybe
motion.
One more. Andrew, what, and maybe you said this already and I'm just not tracking, but just, question is what, in terms of kind of engaging with the neighbors and so forth, give me what's happened thus far, and if there is a de novo hearing, what that would look like from now until when there is a de novo hearing, if that happens. Thanks.
Absolutely. So in general, November 23rd, 2021, we sent out the DRC notice to the president of the association. Theoretically, they're supposed to send it to the association as well. We had multiple emails with, I believe her name was Danielle Wright, who is the property manager for the property to the south. We're not able to get anything set up through her. March 8th, we sent out notice for our public participation meeting that we held on March 17th. That went to all neighbors within 300 feet of the property with their address, whatever their mailing address is listed as on the property appraiser. We get it directly from them. On March 17th, we had our public participation meeting. There were about, if I recall, 25 or so. Some people had their screens off and might have had 2 people behind the screen, but about 25 people there. April 13th, we met on site with about 30 neighbors, 35, 40. And then this morning I had another meeting. This has been more public outreach than, frankly, I've ever done for any application before. As for next steps, that's a really good question. I'm always willing to meet with neighbors, but again, we don't know what their demands are still to this day. After submitting in November to DRC, we still don't know the exact list of demands. Even on the P&Z record, there's been inconsistencies with what people want. And I get that. Not everybody has their, the same opinion on everything. But if we were forced to, and I hope we're not, but if we're forced to go back to a drawing board, I would have liked to, when we were already at the drawing board, to know. But if we're forced to go back, we don't even know what's acceptable. We don't know what you don't know. So it's a really good question. Again, we're always willing to meet, but I don't know what that'll look like because I have not been given direction on that.
Okay. Well, okay. Thank you. Great. Then if it's all right, I wanted to just ask. So, Ellen or whoever is representing the neighbor, so again, the criteria for de novo is the project in the area due to the characteristics of the projects and surrounding area require additional review to ensure the development standards and criteria have been met and ensure the area surrounding the development is protected from the impact of development. So with that in mind, what would be some ideas you might have to ensure that that is met? If that makes sense.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I appreciate the opportunity. We talked to them about several things. I talked to Robert Lockery about, what's happening on the Isle. A lot of people are building townhomes, 2, 3-story townhomes. They have a lot less traffic issues because where all of the cars are parked on the street, which has become really a 1-lane street, or happen to be in the larger buildings. So he said that might be something that you want to consider. We also met today.
Sorry, what might be something? Townhomes?
Townhomes.
Instead of
A
okay.
5-story building because of the setback, and they can actually go further encroach into the setback because of the height, right? Because it's 1/2 the height. So they would actually be able to build on a larger part of the lot. The other thing we discussed today, and I specifically asked the question, I said, is there a willingness on the part of your client to address either the number of units or the size of the units? And I did not get a response. So it's very difficult for us to say, meaning we know from a fact I'm not here to redesign their building. We have been very specific about the excessive, increase in the setbacks.
Yeah.
30 is a lot. When you have 100 feet, that's a lot. So.
So it's the idea of can we change the setbacks through possibly change of units or size
of units. There's a lot of ways to do it. I mean.
With the goal of you would like setbacks.
Correct.
Adjusted.
I think what happened is when people say this is the only building that we could build on this lot, yes, if you want to build a 5-story building and you need to meet the parking requirements, this is what you have to build. But that's not what the code says. And the code is very specific about what criteria you need to meet in order to ask for that modification. And I think what's happened over time is people have just gotten used to saying, oh, well, they'll give us a modification, they'll give us a modification. But as I think Commissioner Glassman said, a modification of 10 or 15% is one thing. A modification of an additional 30 feet, to me, almost meets the criteria of a variance, which says, what's the hardship? If you pay too much for the lot, I'm not sure that's the neighbor's problem. If you want to make, more revenue because you want to put in more units, that's not the neighbor's problem. You were given notice when you purchased that property as to what you could build there, and you need to have some level of respect for the community to say, and they're not saying that they won't accept a modification, but the modification they're asking for builds a building that in their opinion, grossly offends the community because they don't want to set that precedent for all of the other buildings on that street. And whatever happened, especially if they were more than 300 feet away, a lot of the people weren't even notified. Because remember, they're talking about character, but when you're talking about modifications, you only have to let people know that we are within 300 feet. So if a building's down the street, you're not looking at the little sign that says, you know, modification requested.
Okay, so you'd like to meet with Andrew to try to
And that's what we said.
work
in the-
together
in
and
the meeting
compromise?
today, is that if the de novo is set, we are happy to sit down and start to talk to them about what may or may not work. What was said to me is, well, I don't think that's the developer's vision, but I'm not sure. You know, I understand that, and I represent developers, so I totally get it. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to look at the neighborhood as a whole and kind of respect the neighborhood's desire to work with the developer to say, what doesn't offend my property? I invested, I paid for it, and I know we do modifications all the time, but we don't do that level of a modification, considering that my client's modification is 8 inches.
Thanks.
And Mayor, I did want to just mention one thing that I did forget. You know, I've been watching planning and zoning for a long time. Typically, you don't see many 4-3 votes on an item. And when you see a vote like that, you know that there are a lot of questions. Remember, 2 people didn't vote, so there's 9 people on that board. So a 4-3 vote in and of itself, to me, raises a lot of questions and just, to me, further justifies having more information come to the commission for us to make a decision on a project like this. Thank you.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded to approve a de novo hearing on this. If there's nothing further to be discussed.
You had one of 2 dates to pick, I believe, Mayor, either 6/21 or 7/5.
Okay, Commissioner Glassman, you made the motion. You want to pick a date?
June 21st or July 5th.
So
July 5th
one's
is our
4
last
weeks and one's, July 5th is our last meeting. That makes me nervous because anything can happen, and then you're looking at going into August. I don't know, that just makes me a little nervous. I don't know, could we do it? You said
I would think
When the item
sooner
opened up, these were the 2 dates.
June 21st, you said?
June 21st.
I mean, does that sound okay to all the parties? June 21st, June 21st? So I would say defer to June 21st.
Or schedule it for a de novo hearing on June 21st.
Yes.
Correct, thank you.
You know, just before we vote, I just want to say that, you know, I tend to, you know, mitigate against giving yard modifications this extreme because I do believe it interferes with the quiet enjoyment of the neighbors. So we will have to take a hard look at this in a de novo hearing, but keep in mind that there is some mitigation that they've also undertaken that the street has been begging for, which is additional parking and trying to clear up the back out parking that is currently on the property. So the street and the neighbors do benefit from some of the practices that they're undertaking. But I'm willing, you know, if the law permits us, I'm willing to give it a full hearing. Let us look at it on the merits, and maybe we'll have a full commission at that time also. And I think it behooves us to respect the public, to at least let them have that shot at it. So I'm going to support your motion. So let's call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. And so de novo hearing is approved for July 22nd, did you say?
21st.
June 21st.
June 21.
June 21st.
June.
Sorry. June 21. Thank you. Okay, moving on to R1. This is an appointment of board and committee members. Would you like to read the names into the record?
Yes, for the June 7th resolution, these are reappointments. Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, Reed Solberg, nominated by Commissioner Moritas. Aviation Advisory Board, Jeff Johnson, nominated by Commissioner Moritas. Marine Advisory Board, Noel Norvell, nominated by Vice Mayor Sorensen. And Performing Arts Center Authority, John Millage, nominated by Mayor Trentalis. And for tonight's resolution, Board of Adjustment, Michael Lambrechts, nominated by Vice Mayor Sorensen. Douglas Mead, nominated by Commissioner Moritas. Robert Wolf, nominated by Commissioner Moritas. Cemetery System Board of Trustees, Michael Watson, nominated by Commissioner Moritas. Citizens Police Review Board, Officer Sabrina Byer, and that's appointed by the Chief of Police. Sergeant Leo Arena, also appointed by the Chief of Police. Historic Preservation Board, Richard Rosa, nominated by Mayor Trantalis. Housing Authority of the City of Fort Lauderdale Board of Commissioners, Shirley Carson, nominated by Mayor Trantalis. Marine Advisory Board, Steve Witten, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Kitty McGowan, nominated by Vice Mayor Sorensen. Sustainability Advisory Board, Douglas Brinkley, nominated by Commissioner Moritas, and that rounds it out.
Okay, thank you. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Are there any other names to be read into the record? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, appointing or nominating, if applicable, board and committee members as set forth in the exhibit attached hereto and made a part hereof. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trantalis?
Yes, and those individuals are now appointed, will be appointed to these board and committees, and I want to thank each and every one of them for your commitment to your community and for the sacrifice you're making on our behalf. R2 is a resolution consenting to a performance extension for 1 year for the Qualified Target Industry Tax Refund Program for 4 companies: Charter Schools USA, Sixt Car Rent-A-Car, Hayes Medical Staffing, and Wash Depot Holdings. I have no one who's signed up to speak. Does anyone have any questions? If none, someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Resolution's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, consenting to a 1-year extension for 4 companies: Charter Schools USA, Inc., Sixt Rent-A-Car, LLC, Hayes Medical Staffing, LLC, and Wash Depot Holdings, Inc., to meet their performance requirements for the Qualified Target Industry Tax Refund Program, providing for conflicts and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trantalis?
Yes, and the resolution is approved. R3, resolution approving the transfer of 15 city-owned properties located in the Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights Community Redevelopment Area to the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency for affordable housing. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
No one has signed up to speak. Any questions? Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the transfer of 15 city-owned properties located in the Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights Community Redevelopment Area to the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency for public purposes pursuant to Section 8.02 of the City Charter, subject to terms and conditions, authorizing the proper city officials to execute the conveyance instruments and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trantalis?
Yes, and the resolution is approved. R4, quasi-judicial resolution regarding a site plan level 2 development permit application for an alternative design deviating from minimum tower setback requirements and requesting additional height through the Northwest Regional Activity Center Affordable Housing Height Bonus Incentive for a 6-story mixed-income multifamily building, Wright Dynasty Development. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and Commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Glassman, do you have any disclosures?
No disclosures on this.
Vice Mayor?
None.
I don't think I met with anybody on this either. Is Dennis Wright here? Hello, Dennis. Dennis and Kurta Peter. What is it pronounced? Okay, I couldn't read the writing. I'm sorry. So please come up. You have 3 minutes to speak. Oh, any questions? Okay, are you the developer? Okay. You want to talk to us a little bit about this? You want to come up and give us a little heads up as to why you're seeking this? Hello there.
Good afternoon.
Believe it or not, it's evening.
Good evening. Mayor Trantalis, Vice Mayor Swanson, and Commissioner Glassman. Good to see you. My name is Dennis Wright. This project is built on the legacy of Helen Morris of Helen's Kindergarten and Nursery that opened up in 1954 on Sistrunk. I am Helen Morris's grandson. I am a third-generation property owner on Sistrunk. When I grew up on Trump, it had the spirit of young entrepreneurship throughout up and down that street, the historic Trump community. And this project is to be part of the fabric of the revitalization that's bringing back that entrepreneurial spirit on Trump. We partnered in a sense where we purposed the Willie Walker grocery store, and we're going to use that property to develop a 6-story, 24-unit residential mix of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, as well as a commercial component on the first floor of 5 commercial units. They will also include 2 floors of parking that's incorporated as part of the development project.
It looks nice.
Thank you.
Now, the commercial obviously is on Sistrunk Boulevard, correct?
That is correct.
Do you have any potential tenants there yet?
I do have one potential tenant, accounting services.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, let's see. This is in the form of a resolution. If there's no one else wishing to speak, would someone like to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
And that's approving, correct?
Introduced to approve.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the issuance of a site plan Level 2 development permit for an alternative design and height bonus for the development of a 65-foot, 24-unit mixed-income multifamily residential project known as Wright Dynasty, located at 1221 Northwest 6th Street, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the Northwest Regional Activity Center Mixed-Use West Zoning District. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and that resolution is approved. Good luck. Congratulations. And thank you for your investment in your community. R5, quasi-judicial resolution approving a plat known as the Landacaris plat.
That one's removed from we removed that one from the agenda.
That's
What is that?
We removed it from the agenda.
We removed that one. Okay, I forgot my list here. Hold on. Gee, and I was practicing the pronunciation all night. Hold on. Correct, you removed that. All right, very good. So move on to R6, quasi-judicial resolution vacating a 6-foot wide, 900 square foot utility easement, Mount Hermon African Methodist Episcopal Church at 750 Northwest 4th Street. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. I do have a disclosure. I spoke with the pastor of the church. I did not have a site visit. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes. R6. I think this is right. I met with Andrew Shine on May 14th. I'm thinking that that's this issue. That's what my notes say.
Okay. Commissioner, Vice Mayor?
None.
None. Okay. So would someone, no one has signed up to speak. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Okay. Before we vote on it, would someone like to move to close the public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
You guys are in lockstep.
Rocking it.
Okay.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. The resolution's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, vacating all of that 6-foot wide by 150-foot long retained utility easement recorded in official records, book 13946, page 94 of the public records of Broward County, Florida, being a portion of Block A subdivision for Fort Lauderdale Land and Development Co., Block 6, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 1, page 57 of the public records of Dade County, Florida, located north of Northwest 3rd Street, south of Northwest 4th Street, east of Northwest 8th Avenue, and west of Northwest 7th Avenue, all said lands situate, lying, and being in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and the item is approved. Is Mr. Shine still here? I guess oh, there you are. Okay. I thought we scared you away. Okay, thank you. And good luck with that. Good luck with that project. R7, this is a quasi-judicial resolution amending site plan level 4 approval and approval of an off-site parking agreement at 1007 East Las Olas Boulevard, 800 Las Olas LLC in Mustang Properties. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. I did speak with Mr. Lockery on this, and I believe also with Mr. Ladd. Any disclosures, sir? Mr. Glassman?
Yes, site visit, also telephone conversation with Mr. Lockery on October 26th.
And Vice Mayor?
Yes, applicant and representative.
Okay. I have one person who signed up to speak for questions only. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, there being none, would someone like to move to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
It's been introduced.
And that's approving.
Yes.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving an amendment to a site plan level 4 development permit for the construction of a 120,427 square foot hotel located at 1007 East Las Olas Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in a CB zoning district. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that resolution is approved. Good luck. Moving on to public hearings. Public hearing 1, public hearing evaluating all comments received and approving an amendment to the 2021-2022 Housing and Community Development Annual Action Plan to add the allocation plan for the Home Investment Partnerships American Rescue Act. No one has signed up to speak. Anyone have any questions with regard to this item? There being none, is this by motion? Alan? What are we doing?
I would do it by motion. There's no resolution, so the motion approving the amendment.
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing number 1 is now approved. The amendment is now approved. Public hearing 2, public hearing to consider a development agreement between the City of Fort Lauderdale and 551 Bayshore Concepts, LLC, for the development known as the Olakino House. I have a couple people sign up to speak.
And Mayor, just for the record, there's no action necessary from the commission on this item tonight. You'll just set a second hearing, presumably at the next meeting, I believe.
Wait, say it again, say it again.
There's no action required beyond the public hearing from the commission on this item. You're just going to set a hearing for the next agenda, the second hearing.
Okay. So, Mr. Brown and Courtney, you're aware that we're not taking any action tonight, we're just setting a time for a hearing. You want to speak on the issue of the hearing?
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission. I'll be very quick. You don't even have to set your clock. We're only here in support Central Beach Alliance of as stipulated by the developer and the conditions that they set forward to our membership when they met with us over several months on this proposed project. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Mayor,
you.
I have a question about this item. I thought we were considering a developer agreement. I don't understand what we're doing here with setting a meeting.
There needs to be 2 hearings on it, so this is your first hearing.
Okay.
The action will be on the second hearing. So you can elicit a comment, so you have to have 2 hearings. So today's the first hearing, and then you're scheduling the second hearing, and you'll take a final decision at the second
Okay,
hearing.
so do we need to have a motion to set it for June 7th, or is that automatic?
No, you need to state on the record as to when it's being set.
Okay, well, I would move that we set this for second hearing on June 7th, 2022.
Okay, is a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded, please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the motion's approved, and the hearing is now going to be set for June 7th?
7th.
7. Public hearing 3. This is a public hearing to consider a resolution approving a development agreement between the city of Fort Lauderdale and the Towers at Las Olas, your favorite place, Commissioner Glassman, for the Towers Planned Development District. I have a couple of people sign up to speak for questions only. Mr. Shine and Mr. Lockery, your firm is in full force tonight. Yeah, right?
What's the date for this, Mayor?
My problem. I think we should defer this so we can give the attorneys more time in this. What'd you ask, Vice Mayor?
I was just asking what the date was for this.
I think this is the second. This is the second
Is
hearing.
this the second one?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, great.
The first one on May 3rd.
Perfect.
So what are we doing here, Mr. Boileau, on PH3?
You are,
It's a resolution.
yeah, it's a resolution.
Right, I mean, but it's a public hearing to consider a resolution approving a development agreement. So this is,
Your second hearing,
Yeah.
then you're approving or denying.
right. All right, would someone like to introduce the resolution approving or denying?
Introduced.
To do what?
To approve.
Okay. Is the resolution's been introduced to approve?
That's fine, yeah.
Do we have to close? Yeah, we have to close the public hearing.
Move to close.
You move to
Second.
close public, and it's been seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, the public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the resolution
Introduced.
to approve?
To approve. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Still to approve.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving a development agreement with Towers at Las Olas LLC and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman,
Yeah, Francis Abreu is speaking from the grave and saying, get this one done already. Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and PH3 is now approved. OSR 1, this is a second reading on an ordinance amending the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations concerning the Central Beach zoning districts. I have one person sign up to speak. Mr. Brown, did you want to speak on this?
Again, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioner Glassman. As you recall, on the first reading of the ordinance back in February, I believe it was, the Central Beach Alliance agreed to go ahead and move forward with passage on the first reading with the understanding that staff would come back to the Central Beach Alliance on a couple issues that had been developed or drafted since we had initially approved the original issues, or not issues, but as outlined on the change and updates of the code. Subsequently, we have met with staff. The board met with staff. We've had several communications back and forth with city staff, and they presented to our membership. Our membership's in support of the proposed changes, the additional changes. And we've also spoken with some of the developers, and they were there at our meetings to help us understand the impacts that they're now faced with if we didn't update these codes. So it was a very productive and collaborative process, and we want to compliment city staff on allowing us and the development community to work together on this code update. It's been a long time coming, over 6 years. It's time to do the right thing for the right reasons. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bill, for all the work you do on behalf of the CBA. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introducing. Can we discuss after we introduce it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Introduced, so now we're open for discussion. Go ahead.
No, I know that there are a couple of issues, and Anthony, if maybe you could address some of the things that we've talked about with regards to process tonight and what we'll have to do with the city attorney's office and some of this information that wasn't in the backup. And then I'd also like you to address something that we did not discuss thoroughly the last time.
Courtney.
When we increased the residential density, if you could also discuss that issue with regards to hotels as well. Thanks.
Yes, Commissioner. At the last meeting, you adopted on first reading, but you directed staff to look at a couple things. One was increasing the density, as you said, and one was an increase to height. So what staff did was look at those zoning districts that already had density caps, so take that topic first. And what we proposed to the CBA after discussing with a couple of individuals in the neighborhood, as well some of the development community, we feel it's appropriate to go up to 70 units to the acre rather than the cap that's currently there.
Which is what, 42?
It's 42, 48, and 48 and 32, depending on which zoning district you're talking about, with the exception of ABA, which has its own criteria for
Okay.
So the CBA was supportive of that. And then for the height, we were talking about what would be an appropriate increase. We looked to the other zoning districts in the area that do allow for increase in height, 20%. And so what we came up with was at 120 feet, if you allowed up to 20%, you'd be at 144 feet. And the limitation for that being proposed, and was also agreed to by the CBA, is that the floor plate dimension would stay static at 16,500 square feet. So right now, if a developer comes in the way the code is currently drafted, and they're not asking for height, they can ask for an increase in the floor plate size. What the development community agreed to was locking that dimension in, subject to being granted the additional height increase. And we also do not object to that. One of the other items that we needed to discuss was the side yard setbacks. That was also directed by the City Commission. What we did was we had pulled out side yard setbacks where we felt that the development pattern had already established that there was really no setbacks there, but particularly in the SLA, because the PRD didn't have setbacks already. The other zoning districts all have setbacks that we've put in. So for the SLA, what we agreed to was to put back in a side yard setback a minimum of 5 feet, so you'd have 10 feet between the podium of each building on the neighboring properties. We thought it was the appropriate thing to do. However, the comment was related to whether or not fire had access. So I did want to stipulate that we did talk to the fire department. They do review all of these projects, and they make sure in their determination in the review that they do have proper access. But the 5 foot we're okay with. The only reason we're putting it back in that area is because it had setbacks before. There were other areas in SLA that were exempt, so we're leaving those in.
What was it before? It's 0 now, but we're going to 5 and 5.
Half the height, subject to reduction based on City Commission.
And I've never seen anything approved at half the height. I mean, I've never seen half the height ever, 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 ever. So, okay, good. So that's good that we're getting rid of that, because it's just whatever.
One more item before I get to the hotel density. So ancillary uses, basically accessory uses, there was language in there that covered certain uses that you see in SBMHA, such as yacht brokerage and offices. We're proposing to put that back in as well. It was something that we missed, and it was pointed out to us, and we don't have a problem putting it in. It's already there.
Okay.
And then getting to the hotel density, after we had the conversation with the CBA regarding those first three items, setback, density, and height, there was a further discussion about increasing the density for hotels. We didn't really come up with a number, but I did talk to Ms. Crush earlier tonight, and if we raise that density, we think we are comfortable recommending the same density cap as the residential. Right now, the density on hotel is, no, but the lower one. The lowest one is 50, and that's in the MBRA. So if we raise that to 70, we think that that is acceptable.
But it is 90 somewhere, right?
It is 90 in 2 other zoning districts. That's correct.
What are those zoning districts where it's 90? IOA and SOA?
Yes.
Okay.
I should probably have Carlin come up here and just do it.
That's okay. He's right there. He's got your back.
So there's, that's open for discussion if the City Commission is amenable to that. None of these have been added into the ordinance officially in your backup. We did come up with a draft, but we didn't have time to get it vetted through the City Attorney's Office. However, we did run through it with Assistant City Attorney Dwayne Spence. He was comfortable that if the City Commission decided to give us the direction and approve it on second reading, that we would incorporate this language prior to the adoption date.
So, Alan, you're okay with that, with what Anthony just said? Because obviously we don't have it in the backup, so we're just, if we do approve this tonight on second reading, then we're just assuming that you guys are getting together and doing the language in the documents that Anthony's just mentioned.
Right, it'll be approved as amended, and then Mr. Fajardo has, I think, articulated what the changes are going to be. And if he hasn't, then he'll need to just add to whatever else may be changed. It'll be on the record, and then we'll make those changes before it's adopted.
Okay. So, Anthony, the only question I have then is thing, we've talked about all of this even as a commission on the first reading, and then I heard the discussion at the Central Beach Alliance meeting as well. So with regards to the hotel density, with it going from 50 to 90, depending on the zoning area of the beach, what's the cleaner way to go, in your opinion, to make it like exactly the way the residential is, or to not have the cap at all, like is the case in many, many zoning areas in the city, or something else? I mean, I know that there are safeguards with regards to the density issue in the hotels. We have minimum sizes of rooms. We have everything has to, the trips have to conform. We go through traffic issues. So I'm not worried about setbacks. I'm not worried about all of a sudden, oh my God, this incredible thing is going to get built here, and hotel rooms are like thousands in a building. No, that's not going to happen because we have those other protections. So what do you think is the cleanest way to go with the density issue for the hotel?
So, based on the conversation we had earlier, I am okay with increasing it to the same density as residential. If we were to talk about something else, I would look for direction from the city commission on it, because we haven't really done an analysis in depth like that. If you looked at the other zoning districts, you really only have density requirements for a hotel in the residential districts, and they're kind of all over the place. It's double in RM15. It goes from 15 dwelling units to 30 hotel rooms, but it only raises it by 5 hotel rooms in the RM25 zoning districts. And then in RMH60, it ranges from 87 sleeping rooms to 120 sleeping rooms, depending on where it is in the city. So there's really not a lot of guidance you can look to in terms of consistency on how those were done. But if you look at the commercial zoning districts, you really don't have any density requirements. For instance, the AIP out by the airport has a minimum requirement. You have to have a hotel that has no less than a certain amount, which is 100 units or 85 suites. So it's kind of hard to look at the rest of the ordinance to get some clear guidance on what would be appropriate. But to your point, the building envelope is the building envelope. It can only be so big. You still have to measure levels of services and capacity for water, sewer, parking. Those will all dictate what can actually fit on a project. So it definitely would not be a free-for-all. And given the fact that we don't have limits in other non-residential zoning districts, it may be appropriate to remove the limit altogether, but I think 70 is a reasonable request.
Okay, so do you think that this is something worth having a discussion going forward in terms of maybe amending what we have on the books now in terms of bringing some sort of conformity, or do you like the fact that the issue of hotel density is just all over the place depending on what you're looking at in the city?
Yeah, I think an option the city commission could possibly consider is adopting it with the 70, and then we can always look at it so that something gets adopted to address at least part of the request, and then come back at a later date if we determine that it might be appropriate to go higher. It's really up to you. I don't think that there's going to be a detrimental impact from doing it that way.
Okay, so you're recommending that we just keep the hotel density the same as the residential density cap?
For NBRA, that's
For
correct.
NBRA at 70?
Yes.
I'm fine with that. Okay, thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We have one more person who signed up to speak, Courtney Crush.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioner Glassman. Courtney Crush, speaking on behalf of a couple property owners. I also want to echo Bill's comments and appreciation for all of the time the commission has spent considering, but also in encouraging and allowing Anthony and his team to work with nuances and model out how this complete rewrite, if you will, of our building form gets implemented. It's been really productive, and as Bill also said, collaborative, I think, across the board. With respect to the issue that came up recently regarding hotel density, I don't think a lot of us ever think about density with respect to hotels, right? How many rooms, and, are you parking it? What does it look like? Is it respectful, et cetera? If the commission would consider, making it consistent, either with the NBRA, with the NBRA maximum of 70, or with its sister districts, the SLA and the IOA, which are zoning districts which have the same maximum height, the same maximum residential density, same setbacks, et cetera. I think that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Anthony?
So, Mayor, if you are wishing to move forward in this manner, there is some items that I'd like to read into the record.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so just regarding the sections that we would be amending, Section 47-12.1 to increase the residential units to 70. Section 47-12.14.1 to add. That's what to add a reference to 47-12.5.
This one.
I know, I just mentioned that. Work wife. So, 47-12.14.1 to add a reference to cross-reference 47-12.5.f. 47-12.5.f is for the height, so you'd be increasing the height subject to the limitation of the floor plate and the 20%. 47-12.5G SLA side yards, and then 47-12.4.1 for the ancillary uses related to what I spoke about earlier for SBMHA and other uses that are ancillary to hotel.
What about the issue that Courtney just brought an issue forward besides just the NBRA? I'm sorry, besides just the NBRA for the hotel density. She mentioned the sister zoning districts as well.
So those are currently at 90. We could leave them at 90. If you would like to increase them, we'd have to talk about that separately.
Oh, so those are, I'm sorry, I misunderstood then. So those are already at 90, and the other one, the NBRA, we're just moving to 70.
Yeah, and I wanted to be clear. I didn't mean to imply to lower them to 70. I was focused on NBRA to move that up to 70.
70.
Leave the other ones at 90.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe it makes sense to go that way, so
To
that
do
it is
90 across?
consistent. 70 and 90, 70 and 90, 70 and 90. That they're all the same, because they all maxed out at 120 feet anyway, height, right?
When you say 70 and 90, you're talking about the residential at 70.
No, and then the
hotel at 90.
hotel, right?
Okay.
Because that does make sense. Because
we can
everything
do that.
else that you mentioned in terms of building envelope, parking, all the other issues that safeguard, it should be the same.
So the only change there would be that all the hotel densities would be at 90.
Correct.
Okay.
It makes sense.
No objection.
Okay.
So what are we looking to accomplish here? Are we looking to increase development on the beach? Are we looking to reshape buildings that are possibly going to be built on the beach? Are we looking, what are some of the goals here? Because it's for the public to be hearing all this and the mayor, it gets a little complicated. I know the district commissioner has been buried his nose in all this, so he knows a lot more than all of us. So, but to those who haven't been going on this step by step, just give us a 1-minute narrative of what we're hoping to accomplish here.
Sure. So the effort started in 2018 in an attempt to provide some certainty to the ordinance. One of the things that the neighborhood was concerned about is that, much like the discussion we had earlier, when you talk about the setbacks and the yard modifications that you can do on the beach, it gave people a sense of they don't know what's really going to be approved. So we tried to address that directly by adding in some standards for the setback requirements. And then one of the others was the ability to go up the 20% in, I believe, PRD and ABA for increases in floor area ratio and height. Those criteria were very vague. Some of them just didn't make any sense. One of them was basically, paint the building a nice color and you get point. So we looked at that as well. And we came up with some criteria that we felt was more tangible, so to focus on improvements to the street right-of-way, open space, providing public parking at a rate that's consistent with the parking that the city provides, those types of things. So the overall goal was to provide almost a form-based type program, but without the form-based component, because we really didn't have the ability to put that in the ordinance at this point. So to add a lot more certainty to what you get. So there was a lot of collaboration between the development community, the neighborhoods, the CBA, and staff went back and forth for several years. And all that input that we got from the various points of outreach, as well as a couple of charrettes that we had, workshops that we had, we put that together into ordinance and came up with what you're seeing today. So basically, you have a couple of options. You have several options, actually. You passed it on first reading without any of the items that I just mentioned. You could pass it on second reading without them as well. You could pass on second reading with a version of what I mentioned, or you can pass it with everything that we've just discussed. So, Mayor, I don't know if that answers your
Well,
entire question.
I think what I don't think we should do it in piecemeal fashion. So if we're going to approve something, let's just approve all of what you've recommended.
Well, and I would say that there's been a lot of public outreach, and with the exception of the hotel units, the CBA has been very involved and very helpful in helping to guide these ordinance amendments, as well as the changes that we're doing between first and second reading. So I think everyone's pretty much on the same page. From a consensus-driven approach, this is probably as close as I've ever seen in the city of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, so Commissioner Glassman, did you move this item?
I think I did. And by the way, Anthony, I'd say this discussion actually began in 2016, not 18.
It's been a long time.
Because I remember the original workshop at the Hilton Hotel, and I believe it was 2016. But no, I did. But I think Bill wants to say something, Mayor.
Just real quickly, I think as it relates to the height, the additional 20 being giving the developer the opportunity to go additional 20% if they shrink the size of the building. The CBA felt that is a very unique opportunity for the community to work with the developer on a trade-off. Therefore, as you saw with the PDD on the Celine project, that going slender and taller gave more air and light space to some of the surrounding property owners. And as you mentioned, Commissioner Glassman, on the hotel issue, there are so many safeguards built in that can allow it not being humongous. We're comfortable with that and being consistent with all, because it is very confusing for the residents when you have all these different zones and different standards, especially in the Barrier Island. It's more unique to be consistent across the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the ordinance has been introduced as amended?
As amended fully.
Fully. Okay. Is anyone else wishing to speak on this item? There being none, please call the roll.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Section 47-12 entitled Central Beach Districts of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations, providing for severability, providing for conflicts and repeal, providing for correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, and I just wanted to thank staff, Anthony, everyone that's been involved in this over all the years. A lot of work. Thank you so much. Work wife, thank you so much. And, you know, the neighborhood, incredible. Just so many meetings, Mayor and Vice Mayor, and just a lot of collaboration. And this was really a big effort, and I just think it brings a lot more clarity. So I just want to, you know, basically just say thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I'm good. Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yeah, great teamwork, Commish. Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and the ordinance is now approved on second reading. Thank you for everything that was done here, and hopefully it will continue to beautify our beach. OSR 2, second reading, ordinance approving an amendment to the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations regarding special sign districts. I have one person signed up to speak, but for questions only. Anyone have any questions regarding this ordinance on second reading? There being none, would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
Introduced, please call the roll.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, establishing the New River Center Special Sign District and amending the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations, specifically Article 3, Development Requirements, Section 47-22.8, entitled Special Sign Districts, to create a new Section 47-22.8.1 entitled New River Center Special Sign District, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinance provisions, providing for codification and scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, by the way, I was remiss in also not thanking the development community for all of the work that went into that rewrite. It really was a three-party collaborative effort, so I wanted to thank
Regarding
everyone.
OSR 1?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you. Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. So OSR 2 is now approved on second reading, and the special sign districts is now made our law in the land. Okay, OSR 3, second reading, and ordinance amending the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations relating to landscaping and tree preservation requirements. No one has signed up to speak.
Mayor, we're requesting defer to June the 7th, please.
Say it again?
We are requesting to defer this item to June the 7th.
Is that on my list?
On OSR 3?
No. Okay, that was not on my list. Oh,
It's-
here it
it's
says
in
here.
the-
deferment.
Published in the agenda.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
It's getting late. So this is requesting a deferment to June 7th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to defer?
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and second to defer the item to June 7th, 2022. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and so OSR 3 is now deferred to June 7th, 2022. I have no further items on
We
the
do
agenda.
have the one walk-on item, Mayor.
Oh, right, regarding Riverwalk. Yes. This is a motion approving a music exemption, alcohol, and road closure for the Panther Watch Party. Someone like to move the item?
Move.
Yes.
Does someone like to second it?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anyone here to speak on this item? There's nobody. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. So that item is now approved. When is the game?
This will be for when they play on the road. I should check. They were up 1-0 last time I looked.
Tied 1-1 now.
1-1?
Crazy. The Heat, how they doing?
Heat are down 5-0. Couple minutes in.
Crazy. Every game on together, opposite each other. Ridiculous.
So I think the first time the watch party happens, when they play in Tampa, it'll be this week.
Yeah, I think it's this weekend.
Crazy.
That's what I thought.
Mayor, I have one motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move that we reduce the size of the city commission to 3.
It's a good number.
It's only 10 to 9. We're done. We did so much. 3 people. We cut down the talking. Is that an appropriate motion, city attorney?
No comment.
Okay, I'm sorry.
comment.
Okay. I try.
You do it by majority vote.
I try.
Mayor, I wanted to check in if it's all right just with our city auditor, just to kind of see how things are going and you getting the support you need and everything going all right in the department.
Yes, everything's going well. I guess I've got three weeks in now and been to a lot of different meetings, and I've met a lot of people, and things are going well with the staff, so we're moving along well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mayor. I just want to check.
Okay, Mr. Wallow, do you have any announcements?
I do not.
No announcements? Any further business of the commission? There being none, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right.